Oh, this is gonna be a.
Oh.
It won't take us too long. Fan mail from some flounder.
I do have a copy of
Pardon?
the contract. If you can see it.
Which pack is that?
we at here?
Work right.
Where are we at here?
Okay. Good morning, and welcome to the Todd County Board of Commissioners regular board meeting. Today is Tuesday, February 6th. The time is 9 o'clock. All commissioners are here along with the auditor treasurer. We will stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we'll add the county attorney is present also. Then we'll go into the amendments to the agenda.
Yes, Madam Chair, I would like to add 5.7 to add disciplinary action. What's the title of that board action? Do we even know?
Disciplinary designee.
Designation, yep. So somebody to carry in interim while we don't have a coordinator. Yes, okay.
That's correct.
Okay, so that I would be adding at 5.7, and Nellie Johnson will be presenting.
Okay, are there any other additions? Having no other additions, is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Noska, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Newman. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries. Then we'll go ahead, Denise, into the consent items.
Consent items today I have are a meeting minute approval for January 16th and the 29th of 2024. Gambling permit for St. Mary of Mount Carmel for 27/24 is the event date. Gambling permit for Sauk Center Area Chamber of Commerce, event is 4/27/24. Gambling permit Sauk Valley Gobblers, their event date is 4/20/24. Gambling permit for Midwest Outdoors Unlimited, their event is 4/7/2024. Gambling permit for Sauk Center Ferry Lake Association event is 5/22/2024. And temporary liquor license, Sauk Center Area Chamber of Commerce, 4/27/2024. Hire senior engineer technician Brian Holenkamp, start date 2/21/2024. Resignation of eligibility worker number 3101, 1/10/2024.
Okay, hearing this, is there a motion for approval for the consent items?
So moved.
Motion by Byers, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Denning. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And carries. Denise?
Auditor warrants is my first item today, and the background has been sent for review. The recommendation is to approve the January 2024 auditor warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling the amount of $2,952,334.98.
Okay, is there a motion for the auditor warrants?
So moved.
Motion by Denny, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Noska. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, roll call?
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Naska?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Commissioner Byers?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Next item I have is the commissioner warrants. Background is sent for your review. Recommendation is to approve the commissioner warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling the amount of $113,461.80.
Okay, I'll ask for a motion for the commissioner warrants.
So moved.
Motion by Noska. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Second by Byers. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll do roll call.
Commissioner Naska?
Yes.
Commissioner Byers?
Yes.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Thank you. The next item I have then is the Health and Human Service Commissioner warrants. Background is sent for review. Recommendation is to approve the Health and Human Service Commissioner warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling the amount of $83,810.46.
Is there a motion for the Health and Human Services Commission warrants?
So moved.
We'll do a motion by Newman and a second by Denny. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll do roll call.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Nazca?
Yes.
Commissioner Byers?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
Okay, the next item I have is the Health and Human Service SSIS warrants. Background is sent for review. Recommendation is to approve the Health and Human Service SSIS warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling the amount of $161,679.33.
Is there a motion for the Health and Human Services SSIS warrants?
So moved.
Motion by Denny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Byers. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll do roll call.
Commissioner Denny?
Yes.
Commissioner Byers?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Commissioner Nazca?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes.
The next item I have then today is to reconvey Bertha City forfeited lands back to the state of Minnesota. Some background on this. The city of Bertha had acquired parcel 29-0003201 with the physical address of 43368 County 23, with intentions to utilize this property for the purpose of public service facilities, which is an authorized public use under the statute. The cost to use this parcel as public service facilities are beyond the budget that the city of Bertha had set. Minnesota Statute 282.01 states that when a whole parcel or a part of a parcel of conveyed tax forfeited land is not being used for the authorized purpose of public use, the governing body of the governmental subdivision must voluntarily reconvene the property back to the state of Minnesota. Your options are to adopt the resolution of reconveying the forfeited lands from the city of Bertha to the state of Minnesota, or do not adopt. The recommendation is to adopt the attached resolution of reconveyance of the forfeited lands from the city of Bertha to the state of Minnesota so that the city can begin preparation to place this property on the next tax forfeited land sale.
Okay, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution.
Okay, motion by Nazca. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Denny. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries.
The next item I have is to restrict fund balance for Clean Water Partnership CWP loan program. Background, on April 21st, 2020, the county board approved the Clean Water Partnership loan program with MPCA Board Action 20200421-18. The loan application fees, principal and interest are collected and held in the general fund. On January 18, 2022, the county board established a restricted fund balance for the CWP loan program for fiscal year end 2021. Per auditing standards, this restricted balance should be updated annually. The fiscal year end 2023 balance is $81,462.36. These funds are to be collected and held to supply for the loan repayment to MPCA. Your options are to adopt the attached resolution or do not adopt the attached resolution. It is the recommendation to adopt the attached resolution to restrict fund balance for Clean Water Partnership CWP loan program.
Is there a motion for the fund balance for the Clean Water Partnership Loan Program?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Denny. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Newman. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries. Then we go to 5.7. Nellie?
The agenda topic is discipline designee. The background for this board action, Personnel Policy Section 4.03, authority to carry out discipline states, communication between supervisor, staff, department heads, administration, and the Personnel Committee is required to address disciplinary issues. B, supervisors may carry out oral reprimands. C, directors may carry out written reprimands without unpaid leave. D, the county coordinator or designee may carry out all disciplinary measures with the exception of dismissal. E, the county board action is required for dismissal. With the vacancy of county coordinator, the board will need to appoint their designee to carry out discipline. If no designee is in place, discipline higher than a written reprimand cannot be issued until county coordinator is in place. Options 1, appoint blank as designee to carry out all disciplinary measures with the exception of dismissal pending county coordinator start date.
Okay, we'll need a motion to appoint a designee to carry out disciplinary measures. So we'll need a name, within that motion.
Madam Chair, I would appoint the Personnel Committee as a designee to carry out all disciplinary measures. And that Personnel Committee consists of the HR, County Attorney, Chair, and Vice Chair.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Second by Nazca. Discussion. Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries. Thank you, Nellie. Then we'll go to County Assessor.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm here today to schedule the 2024 County Board of Appeal and Equalization date and time. Minnesota Statute 274.14 states that the County Board of Appeal and Equalization must meet after the second Friday in June and may not meet after June 30th. This must be an evening meeting and it cannot end before 7 p.m. I have 3 dates listed, 17th, 18th, and 20th of June. Those are respectively Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. This year, Wednesday will not be a work day, so I left the 19th off. And I also left additional time in case we have to reconvene, because we have to be done by June 30th. So my recommendation is the Todd County Board of Commissioners approves the following by motion. The Todd County Board hereby schedules the 2024 Todd County Board of Appeal and Equalization meeting for June blank 2024, commencing at 6 p.m. and not ending before 7 p.m.
Okay, do we have a date? I prefer the 18th
It's the same thing as a
myself,
board meeting, right?
We have a board meeting.
that, in the morning.
Yep.
And this has to be in the evening meeting.
I'm indifferent. I can do 18th.
I think I can do it.
Okay, in the motion, I would need a date then.
I make a motion that we set the Board of Appeal and Equalization meeting for June 18th, 2024.
Okay, a motion by Byers, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Danny, discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Chris.
Nancy?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have one agenda item today. It's for the County Ditch 32 Hold Harmless Agreement for Ditch Maintenance. Options are approve the hold harmless agreement or do not approve the hold harmless agreement. The recommendation is the Todd County Board of Commissioners approves the following by motion. Acting as ditch authority approves a hold harmless agreement submitted by Doug Carey, acting on behalf of the owners of parcel 24,000,8700, 24,000,8800, 24,000,9700, and 24,000,9800 to maintain approximately 3,900 feet of laterals 3 and branch 5 of lateral 3 on County Ditch 32, Turtle Creek Township sections 8 and 9. This maintenance will be done at their own expense. This maintenance will be done on their own properties and at their own expense.
Okay, after hearing this, is there a motion for County Ditch 22 for the whole harmless agreement?
Or 32.
Or 32, excuse me.
I'll make a motion to approve the hold harmless agreement.
Okay, motion by Nazca. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Byers. Discussion. Nancy, is there any maps or anything you want to show
There
us?
is. So it's just the section going east-west is the branch, and the going north-south is the main ditch, or the lateral 3. And then I do have some pictures of it, if you want to just scroll up. So that's looking, that's lateral 3 looking from, I can't remember the road.
County Road 18, it says.
Nope,
Looking
that's the,
north.
that's the bottom one.
Okay.
Sorry. So that's looking north off of County Road 18. And then if you scroll up, the other one's looking south off the Township Road.
Oh, yep, I see.
Norris Road, there you go, off the Norris Road culvert.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
So what I have for you today is our website redesign and hosting. I have attached all 3 proposals in the board packet. The background is, while our current website is good, it is in need of some new modules and updates that take a considerable amount of time to configure. Excuse me. I have looked into 3 different hosting companies to host our Todd County website. The benefit of hosting is that the hosting company takes care of all updates, upgrades, and security of the website. They're responsible for making the back end ADA compliant, although we are still responsible for the content being ADA accessible. This also saves an MIS staff time. There's also a potential for replacing our current SharePoint site and the reservations within SharePoint. I have attached all 3 proposals. I have spent a considerable amount of time looking at all 3. I believe Revise is our best choice with the option to pay over 5 years. There's also a free website redesign of the website at that 5-year mark. Our options are to approve hosting the Todd County website with Revise with the option to pay over 5 years, or do not approve hosting. Recommendation is to approve hosting the Todd County website with Revise with the option to pay over 5 years. And I'll just add to every year it's going to be that $82.80 amount. So for the 5 years. And then after 5 years, we can renew or look at something different.
Okay, I will need a motion. And you're recommending this
Revise. Yep.
Okay. I'd ask for a motion.
So,
Motion by Newman, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Nazca, discussion.
so when will we start updating?
As soon as I'm done with board today, I will let Revise know that we're gonna go with them. They'll get us a timeline. So probably, I think on average, it's like 4 to 6 months by the time the actual website goes live again, just with all the updating and the design aspects of it.
Okay.
But once I get that, I can let you guys know.
Madam Chair, can I ask a
Yes.
question? Will there be time for departments to interject? Excuse me, because we get a lot of comments that it's not user-friendly right now for people to go find tax
I
information.
really hope so, because I want to get some sort of committee to help with this whole design process and make sure it is functional and what we want to see.
Thank you.
I also know at the Soil and Water meeting Thursday night, there was quite a bit of conversation about being able to find
Yep,
papers and maps and so forth
yep.
through Soil and Water.
Yeah, so I hope to
Planning
get a
and
lot of
zoning.
input to help make everything as, how we want it.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Discussion, we haven't voted on that, have we?
No, you have a Newman
Okay,
and
all
Oscar.
in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Good morning, Lauren.
Good morning. Morning.
Morning.
Morning, Lauren.
All right, on the agenda this morning for Public Works is a request to set the spring 2014, or 2024 spring road meeting. With that, I gave some potential dates for the board to consider, and we'd love to set a date and have the board out for some good topics of conversation regarding the Public Works Department.
Okay, any dates? Any dates? Work? Usually we have the Spring Road meeting at the North Shop,
Yep, we sure can if you like.
okay?
Yep.
I think they're looking over their dates yet.
I'm good with the 17th or 18th if anybody else is.
Yeah.
I can do either of those.
I think I can do them. One of them.
One of them, yeah. I mean, I'm, the other
The
two.
18th, I have West Central Juvenile in Moorhead at 10:30 in the morning. So the 17th would be
17th?
better for me.
Okay, yeah, I'll make a motion for the April 17th at 9 AM at the North Shop.
Okay, thank you. The motion by Nasca, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Byers. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And carries. Thank you, Lauren.
Excellent, thank you.
Thanks, Lauren.
Good morning,
Good
everyone.
morning.
I have a few items on the agenda. The first item we have is to approval of the bid historic Rockwall Restoration Project. The background is the Todd County Historic Rockwall Restoration Project has received state historic grant funds, and the construction documents have been prepared to obtain public construction bids. The options are to approve the Facilities Committee to move forward on the Todd County Historic Rockwall Restoration Project forward to the public construction bid phase, or number two, do not move this project forward to the public bid phase at this time. The recommendation authorized the Facilities Committee to move the Todd County Historic Rockwall Restoration Project forward to the public construction bid phase.
Okay, I'd ask for a motion for approval to move the bid forward for the rock wall restoration.
So moved.
Motion by Byers, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Newman. Discussion.
So, Madam Chair, is this for the first phase?
This would be the bid. We have the option to do the second phase. We're going to include that as a potential for the board to consider, but we're going to have it as an option on the bidding process for the second phase as well.
We call it like a bid alternate.
Yep.
So the base bid will be phase one, phase two will be an alternate that the board can choose to add on if they want.
Correct.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And it carries.
All right, then my second item is to approval of hire Winseth Engineering and Architectural Services. The background is Winseth has been assisting Todd County in the acquisition of state historic grant funds and the preparation of construction documents for Todd County Historic Rockwall Restoration Project. Now that the project has received said grant funds and the construction documents have been prepared, the Facilities Committee is recommending approval to hire Winseth to provide for engineering and architectural services for the duration of construction phase of the Todd County Historic Rockwall Restoration Project. The options are to approve the attached engineering and architectural services proposal from Winseth for Todd County Historic Rockwall Restoration Project for $32,930, or do not approve at this time. The recommendation is to approve the attached engineering and architectural services proposal from Winseth for the Todd County Historic Rockwall Restoration Project for $32,930.
Okay, is there a motion for the approval to hire Winseth for the rock wall restoration?
Move to approve.
Motion by Newman, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Denny. Discussion.
Not that it's a monstrous deal here, but
Yep.
that number's a little,
Yeah, that number is a typo, I apologize.
yeah,
That's mine. I did it.
Yeah.
I'll take credit.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any
Did
other
not catch that
discussion?
either.
Hearing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then I have one more item on the agenda, and the topic for the agenda is change of title from facility supervisor to facilities manager. The background is the current position of facility supervisor is inconsistent with the job description and job duties of the position. It is recommended that the position title be eliminated and replaced with the title of facilities manager to better describe the position. The options are to change the title of facility supervisor to facilities manager to better describe the position, or do not approve the request. To change, the recommendation is to change the title of facility supervisor to facilities manager to better describe the position.
Okay. And we need a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Denny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Byers. Discussion. I know you went through the personnel with this and we did approve, you know, the changes and so forth, so.
Yes, this will go to, it's like Gallagher that we have hired. This will go to Gallagher to make sure it meets their qualifications during their review, and then be brought back to us at that time.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mitch.
Okay, then we'll do planning and zoning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Get organized here a second. All right. My first item this morning is bringing back Highway 27 salvage, the request for CUP. This application for a CUP to establish a salvage yard on parcel 21-0008601, Round Prairie Township, was submitted on October 16th. It was reviewed by the Planning Commission during the December 7th and January 4th meeting, and the final recommendation from the Planning Commission was to grant the CUP with the conditions listed below. Options are to grant the CUP, to deny the CUP. I always put this in as an option, but it really isn't an option, to remand it back because we're at the end of our decision period here. The recommendation is to adopt the findings of the Planning Commission and grant the CUP to parcel 21-0008601 with the following conditions. 1, the existing southern fence shall be moved to achieve a 50-foot setback from private wells, and the fence shall be set back no less than 4 feet from the southern property line. 2, perimeter fence shall be maintained to provide sufficient screening from all public roads, and the perimeter fence shall be no less than 10 feet in height measured from the ground surface. 3, perimeter fence shall be fully established no later than August 1st, 2024. 4, applicant shall obtain MPC industrial stormwater permitting and provide verification of permitting to the county. 5, accumulation of scrap material shall not be visible from US Highway 71. And 6, that the applicant must abide by all applicable federal, state, and local standards. And last board meeting, we were discussing this during the item, and before a decision was made, there's a request to have John here to ask any of those questions that John may be able to answer. So we'll open it up for that, for any questions for myself or for John, I guess. Thank you.
Okay, I think we'll open this up for discussion first.
So, Madam Chair,
Yes, right.
he had 10 years to meet the conditions on the first one. What's guaranteeing us he's gonna get these done?
Commissioner Newman, that's a great question, and I don't know the answer to that, other than that the conditions are enforceable if they don't get completed. I think over the course of years, there was just, whatever the reason was, it wasn't enforced when those things were not completed previously. But the opportunity is in front of us to make sure that these things are enforced as we move along, and the decision can't be made on some unknown future condition. It's made on the facts of the case as we have presented here.
So, Madam Chair, my next question is if there's other existing situations out there like this where the conditions have not been met that the board approved, and if we let them slide on this one, is there gonna be a snowball effect? Saying, well, you let him go 10 years, why can't I?
Sure, that's a valid question. We can follow up on any one of them that we need to over the course of time. A lot of times we maybe aren't aware or haven't reviewed that site in a long time. it's a number of CUPs across the county, and I have really 2 to 3 field staff to be able to go out and look at these things. But if we are aware of them and can go or get a complaint or whatever the reason, we go verify those things, determine if they're in violation, send those notices, maybe work with John if we need to at that point after we send some notices and give them time to get into compliance. And CUPs go through that same process of review that can go to the planning commission and they can make a recommendation to revoke them, or you have the opportunity to utilize the county attorney for enforcement also.
So Madam Chair, I have one more. Taxpayers have spent a lot of money on this one. We're not gonna get reimbursed for it. It's been 10 years. So again, you know, we have to ask ourselves, should we approve this or should we deny it? And again, we spent a lot of money on this.
Yeah, and that's a valid
Your
point
time,
too.
County attorney's
sure.
time, sheriff's time. I mean, I can list 5 at least that have spent a lot of time on this. So, and with that, I'm gonna make a motion to deny it.
Before I accept your motion, Randy, is there any other discussion?
I have a little bit of discussion for this one. This one here, I do believe, right, as compared to, I know 10 years ago this started, that was before Adam's time, before my time, but I feel like we've got a lot better, a better vehicle to enforce these now with John as our county attorney, with some other different options that we didn't have 10 years ago. And I think we need to be careful on this one because I think if he can meet these criteria, I don't know if we can say no.
John, I think a lot of people are looking at you right now.
Going back to as far as the recommendation and the terms that are outlined, I think it's smart in this particular case to have a deadline. It should be established no later than August 1st of this year. That's smart. Something big picture going forward that I think we should look at is to beef up our ordinance in terms of enforcement, like saying CUPs must be, it's assumed or that CUPs must be completed by 18 months. I mean, whatever that is, just so we don't have this lingering issue going forward. Look, I think that on its face, it is valid, and I am afraid of, well, I'm afraid of the precedent both ways, but I'm more afraid of the precedent of denying a CUP that on its face is valid. To your point, Lou.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I'd also like to make another discussion item here. I know it says that the fence shall be installed by August 1st, 2021. Should we not have the stormwater permit by then and the scrap material not being visible by then? I mean, after 2020 or August 1st, 2024?
If I may.
Yes.
I think the stormwater is definitely a point of contention, because I do remember in one of the P and Z meetings that the applicant made overtures that, well, I'll get it when I need it, or the process. I think putting a hard date on that's important too, because I kind of got the impression that that was something that the applicant may or may not do. So if it's required, let's put a date on it. And, I mean, all of us work better if we've got a, end date. Hey, let's,
My question is the date is August kind of long? I mean, for some of it, should not the fence and so forth be done before that date?
That we can move that up, recognizing that the applicant needs time to get the work done, but that's,
well,
what is that,
so we
5?
got to make assumptions about when these posts go in the ground. Does he have the materials? How readily available are materials? I know we're not in the pandemic area where you can't get sheet metal and stuff now, but, just make sure, I guess, I'm okay with making it sooner, just make sure it's not an unrealizable deadline that, because of his
Sure.
ability to get materials.
Yeah, and I won't know the answer to that, but that was my thought, is being reasonable with, being able to get the work done. Frost has got to come out, which it's a weird year this year. And on backing up to requiring a date on the stormwater permitting, we can certainly insert that. I think it's important that we recognize that it's a deadline to apply for the permitting. We don't have any control over MPCA actually issuing the permit, but we can put a deadline saying you must apply for it by April 1st or something. I don't, that process is much quicker than fixing that fence around the whole property.
Yeah, totally, that's the, approval is out of our hands, but obviously, getting the applicant to do the work and fill out their paperwork would show us some good faith that they are
Sure.
serious about the cup conditions.
Okay, and what do we think for a date on that one then?
I think May 1st would be fine on that.
May 1st?
I think so.
He be applied for and obtain proof.
Yeah, I would be able to get that from the landowner or reach out to MPCA directly to, that's all public data, so we'd be able to secure that through MPCA too.
Any further discussion?
Just real quick, Adam, you don't know, he made a comment a couple of times, he's not gonna use it for a scrapyard. Would there be anything where the MPCA would issue like a variance if he's not going to use it, or like, are they gonna issue a permit if it's not realistic to issue one on this?
I don't officially know the answer to that. MPCA would have to answer that. In my brief conversations with them, it sounded like regardless of whether he was immediately gonna use it or not, they were gonna issue that permit.
Okay.
I
just didn't wanna get hung up if they're saying, well, we're not gonna issue a permit for no reason.
Do you think, based on the meetings that I was at planning, and the way I understand the setback is that they're gonna make a cutout, right? Like it's gonna be, you know, here's the well, they're gonna cut 50 feet.
Yep.
You know, it's a inset basically on the, so, I mean, we understand that. Do we need to spell that out specifically, that it's, you know, with some type of?
I think we had a good discussion about that, and then Shannon was pretty clear too about we are moving it back 50 feet from every side of that well.
I guess if he doesn't do the, well, I just want to make sure that if, you know, from a legal standpoint, that if we're saying it's got to be a cutback, that he does the cutback and it's not some type of weird triangular, you know, polygon that I don't even know how to describe.
If it's an issue of vagueness in the CUP itself, I would suggest that it's remanded to get it absolutely clear.
Remanded as sent back to the planning commission. We have to make a decision today.
Okay.
I don't have my folder on me right now, but this was the last board meeting prior to 120 days. We've already extended it, so the decision has to happen today.
So let's get the language right today.
Yeah, and that number of 50-foot setback, that's the Minnesota Department of Health well setback for salvage junkyards. So we'll be able to, in my opinion, enforce that based on the Department of Health standard. The fence is giving the security to us, neighbors, whoever, that's protected because the fence is there. He may run a straight line across the property line to make it look nice, but we're protecting that well permanently with that fencing around the well.
Yeah, my thought process there is that in those planning and zoning meetings, there was a lot of discussion, specifically like, okay, how do we measure the 10 feet? They're talking about, oh, we don't want to be able to have some child crawl under the fence, and I didn't really want to see, you know, for me, it's ground up 10 feet. As soon as you start saying, well, this little spot's got to be, you know, Jimmy can't slide under or whatever, it's 10 feet from the ground and no other,
okay,
you know,
10
other measurement.
Can we put something in the language as far as the material he uses? Because during that planning and zoning meeting, he must have been using some used material, or, I mean, do we have anything to say with the material that he's using?
John, I don't know, maybe you have a better answer. To the best of my knowledge, the type of materials you can dictate are, you know, requiring earth tone colors or like natural materials, things like that. I don't know if that's necessarily, you know, in a commercial scenario, if that's something we want to look at, but I don't know if you have any more to add, John.
I would refer to the definitions section of our ordinance. If a fence is defined, then that's our answer. And I will have to pull it up, unless anybody else has it handy.
I do not.
Madam Chair, I may add to, as you vote on this, could we please go line by line in what you're changing? So we have it right for public record, please.
And I'll add in the meantime, thank you. Thanks, Deja. I got it here, John.
Okay.
Fence is defined as any partition, wall, or gate erected as a divider, marker, barrier, or enclosure.
Okay. That's it. That's what we're stuck with. And if we try to apply something more specific, we're going to run into issues that we don't want.
Issues, okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Is there anything, because the state has statutes on junkyards, correct? They don't have any statute that describes or like the standards a fence has to meet? Anything like that? Like the visibility standards or anything, heights there?
I'm not aware of much fencing standard. A lot of the fencing statutes and things relate to like keeping of animals and sharing of cost of fencing and things like that. That Junkyard Act just describes what, like situations where junk can't be visible from state and federal highways. And some other small components. That's the big one though.
So Madam Chair, I've got a question. So the document that I signed as board chair back in 2013, my question is, what happened to the trees? He was required to plant trees. I don't see any trees even on this one.
Right. To this point, the planning commission, the board hasn't established that trees would be, or planting of trees was a necessary component of it, and not that that's out of the question. That could be a condition. Obviously, we'd be looking at moving fences and different things like that, but that's not something that couldn't be added.
Any further discussion? If not, I'll go back to Commissioner Newman. Would you care to make a motion yet, or would you open it up to someone else to make a motion?
I'll withdraw and let somebody else make the motion because, yeah, I'm not in support of this.
Okay, is there a motion?
Well, if more discussion,
Yes.
please.
Yes.
Sorry. Adam, have we added any changes so far?
Yeah, I can review the
Can we
conditions.
get you to reread the
As-
conditions as we have discussed here and agreed
Yep,
upon?
absolutely.
So we know
And as
exactly
you
what we're
read them,
making a
that
motion.
those are the ones that would be listed in the motion.
Yep, we would
Okay.
amend that proceedings or the
Yes.
findings of fact document to
That clears
include
us
these
here
conditions.
Before we make a
right.
motion on anything.
Yes.
So I'll read them one by one and stop and correct me if you think something needs to be amended. So still number one, existing southern fence shall be moved to achieve a 50-foot setback from private wells. Fence shall be set back no less than 4 feet from the southern property boundary. We discussed that one, but didn't have any changes that
Do
I
you want a
recall.
completion date?
On the moved fence.
On the
We
move
have that
fence.
later in
Okay,
at
I'm
number
just
4.
wondering if you
Sure,
wanted
yeah.
a date on every line.
Yep. Okay. 2, perimeter fence shall be maintained to provide sufficient screening from all public roads. Perimeter fence shall be no less than 10 feet in height measured from the ground surface. We didn't have any changes to that. Perimeter fence shall be established no later than August 1st, 2024. And then 4, applicants shall obtain MPCA industrial stormwater permitting and provide verification of permitting to the county. We are going to add a date that he needs to apply, or he needs to submit that application no later than May 1st of this year. So that was one edit there to number 4. 5, accumulation of scrap material shall not be visible from US 71. And 6, the applicant must abide by all other applicable federal, state, and local standards. That's what we have so far.
Madam Chair, could I add one more? Is it possible to put a review of the CUP on August 2nd?
Oh, just as another condition that the
Yeah,
county
just-
shall
just
conduct
to-
a, we can do that. Yeah, we've done that in the past, and it makes the applicant aware what the county intends to do to follow up on it.
Okay.
Okay, so that would be the last or 7th condition would be that the county shall conduct a site review on, well, it's tough to put it on a date. I don't know if that's a Saturday or something, you know? So we should say we're gonna conduct a review by August 31st or something that, okay.
Do that if you want.
August 2nd is a Friday, so we could put that on there.
If you're okay with that,
I think putting a direct date is better than by.
generalizing it.
Did you want to add trees on at all?
So that would be the 7th.
Freeze.
We'd conduct a review of the site,
On the first
verifying conditions on August 2nd. Okay, 7
Any
conditions.
more discussion on conditions?
As long as we have an end date.
And we've got an end date, correct? Okay, then I would ask for a motion with the conditions that Adam just read.
I will make a motion to approve with conditions as Adam had read, with a review on August 2nd.
Okay, motion from Nazca, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Danny. Any further discussion? Any questions, further discussion?
It's, I have one before we
Okay.
vote. The neighbor, Mr. People, okay? We want to make sure that his rights ain't violated. So I would just keep an eye on that as they move forward.
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
And it would carry. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if we're ready, we'll move along here. Next is the Sales Estate Final Plat. An application for creation of a single lot plat on parcel 0600330001 in Bernalillo Township, submitted October 9th. The preliminary plat was approved November 21st by the Board of Commissioners with no conditions. Planning and zoning has completed the review of Sales Estate and determined that it is ready for final platting. Options are to approve the final plat as presented or deny. Recommendation is approval of final plat as presented to formally establish Sales Estate. So with that, you can see the resolution, and then the final plat document is in there too, along with the location of it on the west side of Moose Lake.
Okay, is there a motion for the Sales Estate Final Plot?
Make a
I
motion.
can maybe describe that a little better. I apologize.
Okay.
If you look on the map there, you'll see the final plat document, but in that very northeast corner, it's kind of a field goal post shape there, that north area, that's just what they're taking off to make another building site in that little corner. I think it's 5 acres. I can confirm that.
Madam Chair, yeah, the western line of the plat is a little bit west of the, how to describe this? The part that, the rectangle that juts out. But yeah, you're right, Adam, it's 5 acres.
Yeah, I see, and I get it. I just,
Would you like to have discussion before we do a motion?
No, I'll make the motion.
Okay. Motion by Denny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Byers. Discussion. And this is for the approval of the plat. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And carries.
Okay, next, the Safe Drinking Water for Private Well Users Grant Opportunity, Planning and Zoning, along with support of Health and Human Services and the Saltwater Conservation District, intend to apply for grant funding to assist private well users with safe drinking water. The grant application is due February 16th with the opportunity to secure $100,000 to assist Todd County residents. This was informational only, just to make the board aware that we intend to apply for this. Commissioner Noska's been involved with one of the meetings. Catherine's put a lot of work into the application already, and we're getting close to the end, but we wanted to give the opportunity to answer any questions and obviously make the board aware that we're pursuing this. And if there's any details you want to know about it, I stuck the informational packet from the Department of Health in here for you to review. And but yeah, it's going to be a cross-department effort. Planning and zoning will we'll apply for, and if we're lucky enough to receive the grant, we'll manage the funds, but utilizing, a partnership across the county here.
Okay. Do you need a motion for the board? You do not need a motion
Nope.
from the board. Okay, then it'll be more informational. Is there discussion? Questions?
No, I think this is a good opportunity for us to get some funding to help those people that may have high nitrates due to certain circumstances. It's an opportunity for people that can't afford to have safe drinking water to get that.
And-
And it also is for testing as well, right? Not just for the.
Right.
Yeah, so.
It's really a two-phase program. This is just phase one. If we're awarded it, we couldn't apply for phase two in the future. What this will consist of is a lot of water testing. If there's 5 main contaminants they'll test for, and if you test above the EPA standard for any of those things, we can then look at trying to find some sort of treatment system to assist with whatever that contaminant is in the household. It'll target low income or families that are on a program or something like that to assist those in that situation.
And this grant also applies for the total Todd County, not just one Pacific area, but,
Yep.
okay. Any other questions or concerns? If not, thank you, and thank you for applying for the grant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. I think next is soil and water.
That is correct. Okay, so Deja is going to join me here, but in the meantime, I'll read the board action here. So this is support of a soil health grant application. Todd SWCD has the opportunity to apply for grant funds and support a position to work in areas of cover crops, easements, and other living cover programs. The Soil and Water Conservation District requests the support of the board to apply for these grant funds. Options are motion to support the grant application or a motion to not support. And the recommendation is approval and support to authorize the SWCD to apply for grant funds in pursuit of funding to support this position. And there was some additional information provided in the board packet for you, but myself and Deja are here to answer any questions you may have. But all we're requesting today is just the support to pursue the grant.
Okay, is there discussion beforehand? I think we'll probably have to have some discussion if you once receive the grant. So I'd ask for a motion for the grant for support of the soil health grant application. And this is for an employee.
Yes,
Correct.
so
Yep.
this would be for another additional employee to be housed at NRCS. And this is just some new information for you since the Personnel Committee meeting. It will be East Ottertail, Wadena, and Todd County that are joining in on this grant application. Also, NRCS is a partner with it, and it is a fully reimbursed position.
Yeah. It would be the first position like that Todd County has ever housed. I think multi-county, different location.
Well,
So I
we
think there'll
have-
be probably further discussion on that.
There can be further discussion on that. Right now, we're just asking for
the grant.
permission to apply for the grant later on. I did provide some other information in there. There's going to be tweaks to, job descriptions and stuff like that if we are granted permission from the county to do so. We do have one other current position like that that's serving in our office and serves a 12-county area, and that is the nutrient management position.
You're right.
They would work together as well.
Okay. And this is for just applying for the grant?
All this is asking, we were told by the Personnel Committee that before we could apply for a grant for a position, that we would need board approval.
Okay, with that,
So, Madam Chair, after talking to one of the water and soil supervisors, the liaison committees were supposed to meet, and we got busy before we could meet with the two from water and soil. both Commissioner Becker and I had to be in Lowry.
Yeah.
We
Correct.
didn't get a chance to meet. I would like to meet with those two individuals before we vote on this, so I would like to table this if we could to the 17th, so we can, as a liaison committee, meet with them and make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah, and we intend to do that, but the application to apply is February,
8th,
which is
Thursday.
2 days from now.
And we
So
did
this-
attempt several times to create a liaison meeting. We do have permission from our board to explore this.
And we can still have that liaison meeting when it comes to looking at the position before we hire and post that stuff. This strictly today is just, we want to pursue the grant. And all that stuff may be all for naught if we don't get the grant. This is just, we want to pursue the grant to have the opportunity presented.
Okay. Okay, at this time, I'd ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion to support the grant application.
Okay, motion from Denny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Byers. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, it passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning.
All right, we have a few board action forms here in front of us to present to you today. The first one being the request to hire a care coordinator. Some background. At the Commissioners' work session on January 16th, there was discussion held about the need for the Adult Services Unit for an additional care coordinator. The position provides services to individuals and communities. This position is responsible for using a holistic approach to complete individualized assessments and develops and implements plans to enhance and protect the quality and dignity of life for the diverse population served. Either an RN or a social worker has the appropriate qualifications to complete the work. Your options are to authorize the hiring of one care coordinator, or number two, to not authorize. It's our recommendation that you authorize the hiring of a care coordinator.
Okay, with that, I'd ask for a motion to hire a care coordinator, and this is a new position.
Correct.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
If I may, for discussion. So it's not a budgeted item,
It is.
but we feel we can absolutely support it and have no further
Yes, we talked
implications.
about that at work session. There's a lot of opportunity, and I'll let Kim kind of go through that really quickly again. Go ahead and review quickly what we.
Yes, in reviewing the position, we looked at opportunities for growth in our areas such as people that aren't actively participating in care coordination to get them to participate. So that's where our funding will come for that. And we've already started working on that from the moment we wanted to pursue another position. So we're about halfway there right now. So as the year goes on, we're thinking we'll be able to recapture it all.
Okay. Any further discussion?
You don't have like a review for this position, just like a there's no trial period, it's just we're hiring, we're going to go?
It'll be up to Kim and Hillary to do that, stay on top of this, but we can definitely bring that back at the end of the year and talk more about it if you'd like.
Perfect.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, I'd ask for a motion.
I'll make the motion to authorize the hiring of a one care coordinator.
Okay, we have a motion by Denny. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Naska. Further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And carries. Thank you.
Thank you. We will bring that back in time and talk more about that.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, our next board action form is an ARPA request. Some background, there has been a significant increase in Todd County's need for home-delivered meals. The Hilltop Regional Kitchen produced over 100,000 meals last year. That's great. In 2022 and 169,000 in 2023. ARPA funding is being requested to cover a portion of the new convection oven at the Hilltop Regional Kitchen to meet the growing demands of home-delivered meals. Your options are to approve the ARPA funding request or to not approve. It is our recommendation that you approve the ARPA funding request. And let me add that we did take this to finance, as that's the normal procedure. We did review it with the finance committee, and they asked that we bring this back as it really had changed from the original designation or request for the unfunded home delivered meals to a different request for the Hilltop and the oven, so.
Okay, and that's correct. During that meeting, we also had some discussion about we weren't basically allowing any more small funding for ARPA funds, that they were going to go into the big projects, but this came up and this is the way it had to be brought forward and presented to us. Okay. With that, is any questions or discussion?
So you had the additional funding, returned it,
Yes.
applying for a lesser amount, and this is, okay, perfect, we're good to go.
Madam Chair, if I may,
Yes.
thank you, Commissioner Denny. This is half of the amount
Right.
of the cost of the oven. The LSS, or the Hilltop Regional Kitchen, serves much more than just our region. So we felt it was fair that we ask for half of the request versus the full request.
So the trend obviously is an upward trend in the amount of meals that they're preparing, and I'm assuming 2024 is on the same, well, projected to be a similar increase?
We do have an aging population. I don't know if you can, Catherine, speak to the trend that they feel is going to be moving in 2024?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know Commissioner Newman had asked, so I pulled some more numbers. So currently, 38% of the meals produced at Hilltop are served locally. So that does include Todd County, but also Wadena takes a significant, Hilltop Regional Kitchen has covered the city of Wadena for 10 years now. When their kitchen closed, they took that over. Wadena, Verndale, and Motley's, and then all of Todd County. So 38% of all the meals created by the kitchen are going to those areas. And that includes the meals that go to our local daycares, Head Start agencies that are served by the kitchen, because they were required to have a dietitian create those meals, and so those are also an opportunity for Hilltop to support our community. There's an increase in waiver services and shipping meals directly, so that's what really has been the growth lately. Of course, there's a growing senior population in Todd County, but what is really pushing that growth is there are facilities across the state of Minnesota that are closing and unable to reach seniors no longer. So now the fact is Hilltop is one of 2 kitchens in the state that ships frozen meals directly to those seniors that are homebound or those who are newly discharged from the hospital. Many of our health plans like Medica, Blue Cross Blue Shield are supporting newly discharged patients and paying for meals to go out to them to support their healing at home. So that's really driving this too, is some of the health plans are realizing that in order to reduce readmissions, they're seeing that if you can help people make sure they're home, make sure they're eating well, that will also help, everyone with healthcare costs. So there is a growing need across the state of Minnesota for these meals as well, and Hilltop is able to support that. They have 18 employees at Hilltop Regional Kitchen right now, and that continues to grow with a second shift.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, I would ask for a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the ARPA funding request for the $7,000.
A motion by Denny for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Newman. Any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And passes. Thank you.
Thank you. The next 2 requests that we have in front of you are related to the opioid settlement funding. We have a request from the Long Prairie Police Department. Some background, the Todd County Opioid Settlement Advisory Council met on January 17th, 2024, and reviewed the attached funding request and approved for funding. This request would cover Long Prairie Police Department's Officer Dare Education Course and Dare class materials and supplies. Your options are to approve the opioid settlement funding request for the Long Prairie Police Department or to not approve. It's our recommendation that you approve the opioid settlement funding request.
Okay, is there a motion for the approval of the opioid funding for the Long Prairie Police Department?
So moved.
Motion by Byers, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Nasca. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries.
Good, thanks. The second funding request is for lodging, transportation, and TITA supports. Some background that Todd County Opioid Settlement Advisory Council met on January 17th, 2024, and reviewed the attached funding request and approved for funding. This request would cover lodging and transportation to return individuals to their county or state of origin. Funds will also support the TITA program materials and supplies. To approve the, your options are to approve the opioid funding settlement request for lodging, transportation, and TITA supports, or to not approve. It's our recommendation you approve the opioid settlement funding request.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the opioid funding for lodging, transportation, and TITA support?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, motion by Denny. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Nasca. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And it carries.
Thank you.
you, Jackie. Okay. Denise, I'll let you read, or,
The next action we have is the resolution in opposition of redesigning of our state flag and seal. The background is in 2023, legislatures created a state emblems redesign commission for the purpose of redesigning the official state flag and official state seal. The Todd County Commissioners met on 1/16/2024 to discuss the impact of the redesign on Todd County and all the counties across the state. The Commissioners directed this topic to be brought forward with a resolution in opposition of changes to the state flag and seal. Your options are to approve the attached resolution or do not approve, and it is recommendation that you approve the attached resolution in opposing to redesigning of the state flag and state seal.
do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Newman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Byers. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries. Okay.
The next item then we have is to approve a letter of support for CTC and USDA Community Connect Grant. CTC, the background is CTC, Consolidated Telephone Company, is actively seeking a grant through the USDA Community Connect program. This grant, if awarded, will bring broadband services to over 400 locations in the areas of Turtle Creek, Ward, and Hartford Townships. CTC is requesting a letter of support to strengthen the application in gaining funds to bring broadband to this portion of Todd County. Your options are to approve the letter of support or do not. It is the recommendation to approve the letter of support for CTC USDA Community Connect Grant application.
Okay, is there a motion for approval of a letter for CTC for communication connections?
I'll make a motion for that, to approve.
Motion by Nasca. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Denny. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And approved.
The next item then we have following that would be the financial support for CTC and USDA Community Connect Grant. The background is Todd County is rated 5 in the state for lowest available broadband. This has been especially challenging over the past 4 years with work from home, virtual classroom, and virtual medical visits, and business being impacted by the lack of quality internet services. As federal and state funding become available for broadband projects, Todd County continues to work with the providers who are interested in making broadband more accessible for the citizens of Todd County. CTC is applying for the USDA Community Connect Grant and has asked for financial commitment from Todd County as they submit their application. Financial support from other entities may help strengthen the application. If the grant is not awarded, there will be no financial commitment from the county. The request was reviewed and recommended by the Finance Committee. And we don't have the date in there, but we did meet on this.
Your options are to approve financial support of $5,000 for CTC for USDA Community Grant Connect if grant is awarded. Option 2 is do not approve, and option 3 is provide different amount of financial support for CTC for the USDA Community Connect grant if the grant is awarded. The recommendation is number 1, to approve financial support of $5,000 for CTC for the USDA Community Connect grant if the grant is awarded.
Okay, is there a motion for the financial support for CTC?
I'll make a motion to support.
And is that option 1 then?
Yes.
Yes, option 1.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Byers, motion by Nazca. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor, or say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and carries. Thank you.
The next item we have is letter of support, Nelson Park Splash Pad, City of Eagle Bend. The background is the City of Eagle Bend is actively seeking a grant through Minnesota DNR Outdoor Recreation Grant Program. The grant will provide funding to construct a splash pad at Nelson Park. A letter of support is requested to strengthen the grant application and show support for the project. Your options are to approve the letter of support for Nelson Park Splash Pad in the City of Eagle Bend or do not. The recommendation is to approve a letter of support for Nelson Park Splash Pad in the City of Eagle Bend. This was reviewed also on a sidebar at the finance. We extended the invite to James Gaeta, the city administrator, to attend, but he had other commitments today, so he apologizes for not being here. But he asks for the letter of support to strengthen their application.
Okay, is there a motion for approval for the letter of support for Nelson Park and Eagle Bend?
Make the motion to approve.
Motion by Denny. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Newman. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries.
The next item we have then is the letter of intent for Todd County's application to the PLSS Monument Grant Program. Background is Todd County Surveyor Mark Johanner has been working with the county departments regarding an opportunity to apply for the PLSS Monument Grant Program for funding to support the monumentation of section corners within Todd County. A letter of intent is being requested to be provided on behalf of Todd County as part of the application process. The options are to sign the letter of intent to submit for the PLSS Monument Grant application, excuse me, or do not sign. The recommendation is to approve by county commissioners to sign the letter of intent to submit for the PLSS Monument Grant application.
And we did have a meeting, I believe it was last week, with the personnel, and I think Lauren was there. Maybe
Yeah,
Adam was there.
a group effort that we've been meeting with
Right.
Mark, our county surveyor.
Yep,
And
and
this has been discussed several years now, that it's a much needed, and this opportunity came about to find these, and mark these section corners in Todd County, and so.
yeah. So with that, I'd ask for a motion for a letter of approval.
So moved.
Motion by Newman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Byers. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and carries.
The first item I have for you is approve change in organizational chart, move GIS from administration. The background on this item, the GIS department has been under the supervision of MIS and now administration, reporting to the county coordinator. With the change in the county coordinator job description and with the retirement of the current county coordinator, GIS will not report to the county coordinator. There has been discussion of moving the department under soil and water, planning and zoning, but a final decision has not been made. A physical move of GIS is not necessary, but it is necessary to have a reporting structure in place for GIS. Options 1, approve change in organizational structure to move GIS under soil and water, planning and zoning, reporting to the soil and water, planning and zoning director. Option 2, approve interim change to move GIS under soil and water, planning and zoning, reporting to the soil and water, planning and zoning director until a final decision is made.
Okay. I would ask for a motion.
Madam Chair, I'll approve the interim change. Right now, make it temporary until a final decision's been made.
Okay. There's been a motion by Newman for, I believe it would be option 2, to make this temporary until we have a chance to overlook everything.
Yeah, I'll second that, but with some discussion.
Okay.
So this is not a physical move at all at this
No,
point.
it's not. It's
Just a reporting move, basically.
a
at this
reporting
point.
move until we,
Yep, I'll second.
to make it permanent, but this is just
Yep.
intern type deal.
In a nutshell, someone that they can say, I need a vacation day or
Yes,
whatever, you know,
yeah,
that type of
that's correct.
customary operations. Wonderful, thank you.
Yep, a supervisor to report to.
Yeah,
Perfect.
okay.
Outstanding.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And it carries. One more job, Adam, right?
Yep. Second item I have is county coordinator employment agreement. The background of this topic is on January 29th, 2024, the Todd County Board of Commissioners conducted interviews for the position of county coordinator. The Board of Commissioners approved by motion to offer the position to Jacqueline Bauer. The terms of the employment agreement have been accepted by Jacqueline with a starting pay of $51.75, which would be $107,640 annually, and it is a grade 20, step 2. Option 1 is approve the terms of the employment agreement and start date of March 11th, 2024, or option 2, do not approve the terms of this agreement.
Okay, with that, I would ask for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Newman, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Denny, discussion?
Yeah, a little discussion.
Yes.
So what gave us the start at step 2?
It was what her minimum request was, and where it's slated in between.
Okay, all right. That was
And she
my
was,
question. Gave 2 instead of 1.
yeah. Okay, any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And carries. Thank you. With that, we'll go into standing reports. Auditor Treasurer?
We're just prepping for audit that'll be coming up and full swing of election season for us, getting election judge training ready. We do it in person, and we do it, we create our own websites that they can go watch and learn. And so we're busy with that.
Did I hear you're having a training on Thursday? Is that correct or not?
Yes.
Yes.
In-house here.
Yeah, so
So
parking will
lot
be,
very, very full.
okay,
For quite a few people signed up, and then it's all day long. And it'll be up here in the boardroom.
okay. County Attorney?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We are back at full strength in terms of attorneys in our office. Daniel York joined our office a few weeks ago, and so far, so good. He brings a lot of experience to our office. So things are getting back to normal for me. I'm getting back to doing what I like to do in this job and what I'm most effective at. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners' reports? Commissioner Newman?
Yes, Madam Chair. On the 16th, was at the Sauk River Watershed meeting. On the 22nd, CPT over in Morris, the 25 county board, I was asked to be, if I would be on personnel. I did accept that, so I am on personnel now over there. On the 29th, we did some interviews and financial. On the 30th, I attended Carl Pung's retirement party down at Public Works. 31st, we had personnel and went through the county survey. Thursday the 1st, Central Minnesota Council on Aging. We're still doing Zoom meetings there. And then I attended Chris Belzer's retirement party. And then last night, Public Health. And yeah, be attending the ditch meeting up in Alexandria, up at Arrowwood, Wednesday and Thursday.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Denny?
Yep. Attended my regular monthly meetings with not a whole lot of new business besides we just did elections for new chairs and vice chairs, discussed budgets, and discussed our 2024 goals, where we need to be by the end of the year. So that's all.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Nasca?
Yeah, all meetings as normal. I missed one. I was out of town last weekend, so I missed one. But we did have on the 20th of January, the Fairboard Ag Society held the winter demo derby. It was cold, but it was a really good turnout. There were a lot of cars there. It was entertaining. I was there the whole day, and it was a lot of fun to watch. So yeah, everything worked real well. I thought it was a pretty good success. So, but other than the regular, that's all I have.
Commissioner Byers?
Thank you, Madam Chair. See, we did some stuff in January. AIS, the Wellness met. The Wellness Committee did a great job with the Christmas party. I think everybody had a great time. Really well organized. I've been to many Christmas parties. That was about the most organized one I've ever seen, so good job to those folks. And then obviously we had the interviews for the open position for coordinator and attended the planning and zoning meeting on the 1st of February. Had facilities on the 2nd with Commissioner Becker, and wellness again yesterday. And then finally, I will be joining Randy and Alec at the AMC Ditch Conference, so,
Okay,
thank you.
I attended the West Central Juvenile meeting in Moorhead, attended the interviews, had a correctional meeting. We had a county extension meeting, attended the planning and zoning. We had the facility meeting. Last night, we had Todd County Public Health meeting. And just as a reminder, tonight, we have a ditch meeting at 6 o'clock also. So with that, we'll go ahead and recess this meeting until February 20th. Thank you. Then we'll go into work session. You want to take a few minutes before we go into Work session. During a work session, there will be no we can't make any decisions or so forth. It's just for communications and information. Okay, and we'll go ahead. And the first one on is the Dairy Ridge. So Adam?
Sure, I'll kick it off here. Thank you. From the previous regular board meeting, we had asked, or it was asked that this come back as a work session item so we can get all the facts and findings and other information put together, and also have the opportunity to have John here if there's any questions that needed to be directed his way. So to start off here, there was a packet of information, I don't know, it was maybe 8 or 10 pages that were handed out just before we started here. We wanted to walk through that, Deja and I, first, just of what that consists of, not go line by line or anything. You can take the time to review that, and then we'll open it up for other things. At the previous meeting, I had spoke about, or there's a question about manure application on frozen soils. I don't think I gave the most complete answer during that time, so that first page should be this manure application at NPDS permitted feedlots document, which gives the MPCA guidance on application on frozen or snow-covered soils. So that's available for review. If you have any questions, we can answer those. Secondly, is the next two documents were things that David had provided to us from his groundwater consultant, Dan Whitney. I think you maybe will be better able to explain what is on this, but that's available for review also. A lot of the conversation has been around groundwater. And the last thing that, or I shouldn't say the last thing, the next thing was a letter I had received from Mark Anderson, the DNR hydrologist, talking about their Dairy Ridge's proposal, what that consists of, and where DNR stands on it at this time. So you can take the time to read that also. And then after that, Deja had some stuff in that packet that she was going to walk through also.
Go ahead. All right. So, good morning, everybody. I want to first thank the commissioners for asking our input. We're kind of late to the game, and this is our formal findings at this time of the feedlot program as we serve the county. And some of the writings that you have on your desk will suggest, or not really suggest, but create possible controls that the commissioners may not be, had been aware of, that this was in their ordinance. So the first thing I want to bring to your attention is that you have adopted the full 70-20 state rules inside your ordinance, and that provides you some controls, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. I'm not going to run through every single item on here, else we'd be here forever. But first, I just want to start with reminding everyone, this is a request simply to expand a feedlot operation at 500 animal units or greater as required by county ordinance. The suggested increase in this is 980 animal units. And this is a feedlot that's run by, or not run by, but is a state program, MPCA feedlot program as authorized by the Environmental Pollution Agency. And the permit that they operate under is the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, also known as the NPDS. This first half, the first couple pages were, I want you to be aware that your feedlot program does work cooperatively with the MPCA, and we have a strong working knowledge of the 70-20 rules, obviously. And we also have had a working relationship with Dairy Ridge in the past. One of the commissioners did ask about what exactly is this operation and what is it made of. So the first couple pages, you're going to see what is Dairy Ridge. You'll get the full, how many acres it operates, milk production, the sites that it's affiliated with, some interesting points about Dairy Ridge. And on page 2 of this document, I have a couple aerial pictures exactly what it is they have on site. If you turn to page 3, okay, that actually depicts all of the operational pieces of this main facility. So you can see where the lagoon is. The manure building directly west of the manure building is a stacking slab. The FS means free stalls, so you'll see a numerous free stalls. There's 4 free stalls on site currently where the feed pads are, so that you can kind of have that overview of what that operation is. If you turn back to the prior page, that one actually shows that the FS4, the most western building, is actually up with the office to the south of it. So the next one, and these are 2023 aerials. The next page will talk about the Dairy Ridge affiliates. So at this site, only mature dairy cattle are housed on the main Dairy Ridge facility. Of course, they have off-sites for the younger young stock. When you dry an animal off, there's a location for that, where they raise their heifers, and there's a nice a map or chart that Dylan Pratt was able to create for you so that you have an understanding, a working understanding of how all of those things interrelate. The next thing that we wanted to bring to your attention is our findings. So in the past, we've always created findings for the county so that they can feel confident and knowledgeable in the decisions that they make. So we did discuss that Dairy Ridge is under the MPCA and under an EPA National Pollutant Discharge System permit. A recent inspection by the MPCA in 2023 found the dairy site to be in full compliance with MN 7020 rules. Todd County has access to all feedlot applications and materials applied through the MPCA, so I wanted you to be aware of that as well. Key point is that Todd County, and we talked about this earlier, has incorporated all 7020 feedlot rules into Section 911 ordinance. This means that the county has Section 911 as backing in its decision-making and enforcement proceedings when necessary. Any findings of noncompliance on the part of MPCA does allow for the county to order review to reconsider allowances set forth by a CUP. The county can also request the MPCA to do a count of cattle at the time of permitting if there's a justified concern. The county feedlot program can also request to accompany the MPCA on compliance inspections. Some possible controls are suggested below there, and I'll let the commissioners look at that. And I'm just going to take a brief pause to see if there's any questions at this time on this section provided to you.
Deja, just because they have just adult cows now, a feedlot does not state that within the feedlot ordinance. They can move calves or other cattle on there at any time, or is their feedlot specifically for adult cows?
The feedlot that they have right now specifies for only adult mature cows. If they wanted to make a change to that, they can't change the animal units. That's something that cannot be changed without going through this whole process over again.
Okay, but the feedlot that they have says they can only have adult cows on there.
That's what it's registered for or permitted for.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So, any other questions? Thank you for asking. Okay, the other thing, we'll just move on, and is that we also have always looked at the other permits that are provided or reviewed by the feedlot program. And one of those is the livestock well, and the other one is construction stormwater. So the livestock well permit, that's always required by any site that withdraws more than 1 million gallons of water or 10,000 gallons a day. Dairy Ridge does have a livestock water permit currently for 17 million gallons, and the CUP proposal would require an additional 8 million gallons per year. The livestock water permit is drawing from aquifer B1, which we shall call sensitive aquifer, as it is showing limitations. There were 4 well interferences, maybe 5, excuse me, in 2021 not entirely associated with the livestock operation, but more likely from unusual crop irrigation usage in the area due to a drought year. The dairy is working with the DNR to find alternative solutions for irrigation. The finding by our program is the DNR has jurisdiction over water use. Since the conditional use permit application is for expansion of livestock, not for the expansion of crop irrigation, the question can be, can the B1 aquifer sustain the 25 million gallons per year necessary to operate the expansion? There's a couple more details in there that I'm going to leave for the commissioners to go through, but we do want to highlight the statement by the DNR. And at the very closure of that letter, there's a statement that says, the proposals made to modify water usage in and around Dairy Ridge appears to provide relief to the B1 aquifer. The use of well number 875924 initially appears positive as an alternative to withdrawing water from the B1 aquifer. There will be continued coordination with groundwater technical on these permit proposals and may result in modification of the current plans. The proposal appears sound, and through additional coordination and evaluation, I feel we can ensure adequate water supply for all, unquote. For the county, they need reasonable assurance that the livestock expansion will not provide further well interferences. And these following controls can be added, and the possible controls are listed. All remaining concerns for B1 are outside of livestock withdrawals and can be taken up with DNR directly, since these concerns are beyond the county's capacity of expertise. Construction stormwater, the finding, it's addressed under the NPDES general permit. In other words, the stormwater plan is necessitated by the permit. The county has access to all plans and supporting documents. As a county assurance measure, a control can be added. The possible control and condition is listed. Are there any questions on that section? Okay, the last section that we have that the feedlot program has input on is manure and nutrients. The Dairy Ridge findings are that they do have both a current and proposed manure management plan to Todd County. Todd County has under its employment a certified nutrient management specialist who does formal reviews of MMPs from area farms. These reviews include analyzing soil sampling conducted every 1 to 3 years on fields within the MMP, manure content analysis, manure production by size and type of livestock on site, storage capacity, land application rates, field characteristics, crop needs and uptake, nutrient credits, and setbacks. All of those things are reviewed. We do have an acknowledgement at this time that the county may not be aware of. On January 15th, 2024, a field application by Dairy Ridge, as pictured below, was called into question. Upon site visit, it was noted that a load of pressed solid manure, I'm trying to think of the word now, I'm blanking, but they squeezed basically the liquid out of their manure, and this was the solid application, had been surface applied on a field. There was a DNR flow or intermittent stream in that field. The land application followed a setback of 120 feet. However, the winter setback is 300 feet. The MPCA required the cleanup of manure by Dairy Ridge, which occurred. The Dairy Ridge team worked with both MPCA and county for clarification purposes on setbacks. It was found that the maps provided on the GIS website, the county's GIS website, did not indicate the existence of a DNR recognized flow or intermittent stream. Todd County has since updated the public GIS viewer to include all DNR flow lines and streams, not just those that are public waters. And Doug Tom did a great job with that. And we immediately requested that to be done so that the general public accessing these maps could see where these flow lines and streams are. On the first page, you see a picture of the land application. The second page, you see the material that was land applied. And then there's a picture supplied by Dairy Ridge of the required cleanup by MPCA of it, what resulted in one spreader load of manure and affected soil was removed in total. In order for the county to ensure water quality is protected through proper storage, timing, and application of nutrients, the following conditions or controls can be used. And we have added 6 more controls onto this for the commissioner's considerations. Are there any questions? And that's the end of findings submitted by myself and Dylan Pratt.
Deja, were you going to read through the possible controls or conditions?
I'm willing to do so on the, you want the ones on the manure?
On the page right here, if you would.
Yes.
I think that's what we're all reading, so anybody in the audience?
Yep. And I can read them all. There's other ones too. But for the nutrients, an air quality exemption will be called into the Todd County Feedlot Program prior to any land application of manure. The notification will provide field location and IDs, manure density, solid or liquid, period of application, procedure of land application, meaning broadcast injection, et cetera, and timing of incorporation. The second one, the applicant will provide annual land application records to the MPCA and local feedlot team for review no later than March 15th of the year following the year of land application. Land application fields and setback maps will be provided to Todd County on an annual basis throughout the first 5 years of the MPCA issued permit at minimum. If there is a need to continue beyond the 5 years, that's in there. Go ahead.
Ask a question.
Yes.
So that point, the second possible control condition, in that case, this incident that happened in January probably likely would have been avoided?
With this one, this would be an after-the-fact review, so that wouldn't have been avoided. The first one would have controlled that because they would have called us up and they would have said, we are going to be land applying manure and we are land applying on this field with this material. And we would have said, your setbacks need to be withheld, and we would have provided that setback.
But we will provide, the county will provide land application field and setback maps on an annual basis to the applicant, correct? Is that how I read that? No?
No.
Brett, go ahead.
Other way around.
Other way
Yes.
around.
Yes.
Yes,
Thank you for the clarification.
yes. Any other questions? Okay. Number 3, all land application will adhere to 70-20 setbacks, including 100-foot setbacks to Sandpoint and other sensitive wells as defined by the Minnesota Department of Health, whether in use or not, and 50 feet from any non-sensitive well, whether private, irrigation, commercial, or livestock well. These setbacks increase during winter application to a 300-foot setback to all wells and surface waters, and must also be adhered during the winter land application events. And winter application is solid manure. The next one, any new liquid manure storage area must be built with a minimum volume of 12 months storage, matching the annual manure production of the proposed animal units, in addition to the proposed wastewater storage volume needed, and any clean or dirty water runoff that will be directed to the pit. An additional 1 foot of freeboard space minimum will be required above and beyond this volume. This pit will be constructed outside of the current drinking water supply management area. And the last one that we have, second to the last one, the applicant will develop an emergency management plan, preferably in both English and Spanish or whatever languages the employees, there's 37 employees total, speak, and have this posted in farm vehicles and key locations throughout the dairy facility. And the last one is applicant will seek application and recommendations from the Minnesota Ag Water Quality Certification Program before year end 2024. Applicant has affirmed. So do you want the other controls read as well?
Commissioners? Yeah, why don't you, Deja?
Okay. Again, these are added controls on top of what you guys have already discussed in previous meetings. I'm not aware of all of those, so. Another possible control or condition, applicant must receive an approved MPCA permit for the expansion prior to the expansion being stocked. The applicant must provide an updated MPCA permit allowing for the expansion of livestock to 3,350 AU to the county prior to the issuance of any livestock building permit. And the last is the applicant must stay in compliance with all state and federal regulations. Again, any violations of these, because you have incorporated these into your ordinance, would allow you to have that ability to review and call for review of the CUP conditions. The next one, under the livestock well permit, a livestock well permit application for any livestock expansion beyond the 17 million gallons currently per year must be approved by the DNR before stocking the expansion in animal units. An updated DNR livestock well permit and any supporting materials must be supplied to Todd County prior to the issuance of any livestock building permit. And construction stormwater. The stormwater and erosion control plan within the design plan will be provided to the county prior to construction. Todd County employees will have the right to enter the premises with advance notice throughout the 2029 NPDS construction permit period to ensure stormwater protections are in place. The NPDS permits are 5 years, and then they reapply.
Commissioners, questions?
Yes, Madam Chair. Has there been an environmental assessment worksheet done on this?
There, at this time, there has not been an environmental assessment worksheet done on this property. They, I do have the rules for what's required for that. It is not required at this time as a mandatory EAW. It is actually exempt just because of the size of the expansion. The MPCA may, on their own, make a different determination. And then if there's any public, if the public wants to, do a petition or something like that, that could also be considered. We've had these in the past, and you have to allow the EAW themselves to determine at that point whether that discretionary EAW would be, or the petition would be honored or not based off of exemption rules.
Okay, because what we're hearing from the constituents is their drinking water supply, okay? And they're concerned about the aquifer being down 30 to 35 feet. What happens if that aquifer collapses?
That's where you need to utilize not the feedlot program, but the DNR.
I understand it, but this is the questions that we're being asked as commissioners that we need to have answered. If you look at the environmental worksheet, it does address the drinking water supply management areas by the Minnesota Department of Health. So, it has all the buzz questions that would answer our constituents' questions.
Yes, and we can, I can testify that as the MPC goes through there is specific questions that talk about drinking water supply. It also talks about the EAW in there as well. I can't speak directly for the MPCA, but they do have these tight controls. And if they decide an EAW is warranted, then an EAW will be gone forth.
So without water, there's no life. And when we run these people out of water, who's responsible?
The DNR is responsible, not the county.
Have we gotten any feedback from the DNR as far as the aquifers or any?
Yep, and that was included in the packet. That's this letter from DNR. I think that's going to answer some of your questions and concerns around that because it has the proposal from Dairy Ridge to the DNR that hasn't been approved yet, but what their proposal is and what those impacts may be. And then the other document, I don't have it up, was the chart and the location of the wells and stuff that was provided from Dan Whitney through Dairy Ridge.
My next question is, what kind of timeline do we have on this, Adam? Are we going to get the answers back from the DNR before we have to make a decision? Because to us, it's kind of.
I don't know the answer to that. We don't obviously control DNR's timeline, but if I remember correctly, we have to make a decision at the next board meeting. So we're here to get the information provided so that you can make a decision on the February 20th board regular agenda. We may get more feedback from DNR, but I don't know.
Is there any way of making that into the first meeting in March or not? We're having some conflicts as far as commissioners.
I would have to look at the date the application, I can probably find that out real quick. If you give me a second.
May I speak?
Yes.
Regarding the water, the proposal that's been made to the DNR and has been worked with our hydrologist, this letter will affirm that he's on board with what we're proposing. He has to finish his evaluation, but it saves 64 million gallons of water annually from that aquifer. For the record, that's more water than we've used in prior years. 64 million gallons of water, if you figure that the average household uses about 127,000 gallons a day, provides water for 503 homes. That's 1/3 the homes in Long Prairie. There's 1,600 homes in Long Prairie. This is the improvement.
Thank you. I have a quick question.
Just wait, Adam, did you come up with a date?
And I text Jamie to see if she could just send it up. She has to look at the folder.
Thank you. I also have had a few constituents have some concern about traffic on specific roads. There is a road that wraps around Lake Charlotte. I think it's 220th Street. And, if I drive my Toyota Camry on it with just it's another car comes, it's very, very tight. And there's been trees that have been, I'm not sure exactly who specifically, there's a corner property owned by Les Levine that he's got a big oak tree right in the corner that gets hit multiple times by trucks and trailers. And it's very close, obviously. It just wraps around Lake Charlotte. You probably know which one I'm talking about, 220th Street. So, and there's people that have residences on one side, on the lake side, and then on the other side is their garages, their workspaces, things like that. So I don't know how it fits in the conversation, but with, current and probably additional traffic, I have a concern, constituents have a concern about that safety of that road, that I would like to somehow address. Please, thank you.
This was brought up to my attention yesterday for the very first time. We can 86 the use of that road. But you're going to have to deal with where those trucks go. I suspect, you know, most of that equipment is coming from Westerberg, who is my contract planter and harvester. I would suspect that if he avoids that road, and Deja can comment to it, he'll have to go all the way down Highway 71 or through the city of Long Prairie with the combine. And I can guarantee you that Gary or Chris Westerberg will do whatever we ask him to do. This was the first time that was brought to my attention.
So likely they would go up, they'd go south on 71 to 210th or whatever, is that gravel, I'm guessing?
Yep. Right.
I don't remember the exact road numbers.
It makes it complicated for, I mean, I don't drive that equipment, but you'll have to take a left turn on 71.
I'm just,
Right.
And I think this just came to our attention in the last less than a week, or if not more, so, or shorter time, so.
And speaking for the SWCD, we too have received concerns from those constituents in that area. And the possibility to stop that Dairy Ridge traffic on that road is something that you commissioners can certainly put into place. The wait would be for you guys to consider, yes, Westerberg might be able to go south and down across and get access to that property. There are other ways, but other additional traffic and that sort of thing that would be traveling Highway 71. So you just have to weigh, like, is it okay for them to go on the highway where they're traveling 65 miles an hour to protect this corridor? But I agree with Commissioner Byers with the concerns that the constituents on that road have shared.
Is that a township road?
Yes.
Yes.
So as commissioners, we have no say. It would be the township that would have the ultimate say on that township road. And have they been contacted, Adam?
Yeah, they've been notified per our normal procedures. I don't know, I'd have to look at the sign-in list if they attended the meetings, but we have heard no comments from Long Prairie Township about any part of this application.
Okay.
And I did get an answer.
Yes.
If we want to circle back to that. I misspoke, our deadline is March 12th. So we would have the February 20th meeting and we would have a March 5th meeting, that first Tuesday, right? So that March 5th would be drop dead. We have to make a decision on that day. We can, not to stop the conversation here today, but we can put it on the regular agenda for the 20th too and see where that goes, so.
With the board up here, we would just as soon have it that first meeting in March.
Okay, is there anything we need to prepare for the meeting on February 20th then? I mean, that deadline's next week, Wednesday, so maybe the answer can come between now and then.
It might be another work session per se.
Okay.
Yeah, if we have once we read through this information, so forth, if we have other questions, we would do it on the 20th as a work session. And the deciding meeting would be on the first meeting, March
5th.
I don't have it in front of me.
March 5th.
March 5th, okay. Any other questions?
Madam Chair, if I may,
Yes.
yeah, that next work session would be a good time for us to define the exact conditions that we would like.
Exactly right, and maybe get a little bit into this aquifer, which we haven't really touched on.
Over this new information that we didn't have.
Right, right.
Similar to the last, where we can put dates if we decide to, and we could make sure the language is specific to what
Yeah.
needed.
Yeah.
And the purpose of our reporting today too is just to make sure, because at the last meeting that I watched, I saw the concern with commissioners that they did not feel they had controls provided within their ordinance on these feedlots. There are controls provided within there, and these are ones that you can exercise if you so choose.
Okay, so we'll leave it as a work session on the 20th of February.
I just have one part.
Yeah.
I just wanted to thank the team our county team that's done a fair amount of legwork the last week or so. You know, great to have resources like that at our disposal.
Is there any questions from? Okay.
Can I, just one
Yes,
closing comment?
Adam.
Based on Deja's report and the discussion here today, as part of that work session on the 20th, we can probably draft some rough language or a start of language of things to address the things we've heard as concerns, so maybe that can make that go a little easier as a start, a jumping off point to what those conditions could be, and scratch them, amend them, whatever.
And if
But we'll
possible-
have some stuff like that prepared for the 20th, and of course, at any time, reach out to myself, Deja, with any comments, questions, and we'd be happy to work with you on that.
Madam
Okay.
Chair, may I
Yes.
speak quick? In regards to Mr. Tomsky talking about possibly using 71, usually when the crews come in, whether you have 500 cows or 3,000 cows, they try to take the least travel road. I mean, anybody in the ag world is gonna stay off the main highways, especially making a left-hand turn. You can't see nothing, and you're just more of a detriment than anything. So if we're gonna use a township road, I'd like to see if we could talk to the township being here and what their concerns are, if they have any input on that, if there is an improvement. I mean, obviously, public safety is a big deal. I don't want to take it lightly, but also would like to know their opinion on what could be possibly done, if anything. But I would recommend staying off 71 if at all possible with that equipment. Also, regarding the nitrate levels, from what I understand, multiple wells were lowered, pumps were lowered, not redug. With that being said, nitrates stay at the top of the water of the aquifers. I mean, we don't know how shallow those wells are. We don't know how old they were. There's no studies on that. So are high nitrate levels a concern? Yes. Is there a solution to high nitrate levels? Absolutely. In-home solutions are all about that. Lowering wells are about that. It is not, from my opinion, it is not grounds of denial. It is grounds for education and improvement to the area. Again, with working with the DNR and Mr. Tomsky's plan to save water, and the larger a dairy gets or an operation gets, the more efficient it has to be. That happens in any kind of business. So I would agree with what he's saying about they're saving the water. As we grew in dairy and family farms grew in dairy, we were doing more animals, but using less water is quite impressive of the operations. So that is just my 2 cents on that.
Okay. Lou, any comments or?
No, not at this time.
Okay.
No.
Okay, Ray.
I would say the only thing I think I'm concerned about is the health, safety, and welfare of our constituents out there when they start expressing their concerns about their drinking water, their livelihood. I'm really concerned about that. So that's where I'm sitting.
And I haven't read this, so I'll have to read this, but the aquifer and the DNR comeback is, what I'm really concerned about is the well part of it.
Right. And there are controls in there too. May I ask a question to the county attorney? Considering this is a livestock expansion CUP, so that's what we're considering here, how much do the irrigation wells legally come into play? Okay. And that's what my question is, if you read the details, it's like, how much do they look at the irrigation piece of it as opposed to the livestock well itself?
Well, if you look at 70-20, that whole part of our Minnesota rules, there are cross references to other rules and other departments, so it's not just the pollution control agency.
Correct. Yep. Yes, absolutely. Okay, yeah, I just wasn't sure, like, I wanted to make sure that we're going down the right path with this, or does the DNR take full jurisdiction of that or not?
If we're communicating with the DNR anyway, I think we should add that to our inquiry and see if they can
Perfect.
shed any light on that.
Okay.
Because ultimately, I think you're right. Your quote was the DNR is responsible for water, not us. Accepting that is true, I think they should give us some feedback on that
Some
question.
assurances.
Yeah.
And that's where those ones that I read in there would be some assurances.
And it'd be interesting to know if at some time they do run low on water, what gets cut off the first? You know, is it animals, irrigation? You know, going back to the same question.
By law, they have to protect the domestic use ahead of animals, irrigation, all of that. And in let's see, during this 2021, I was getting lots of cease withdrawal notices from the DNR during that drought, and a couple this year as well.
Okay.
And I can pull some of that information together. I think there's fact sheets or we can get the language for you. So that can all be arranged and provided by the next meeting. But also, we will make time be available if you have questions, particularly on that DNR document. When you get a chance to read through that, if you have specific questions on that, let me know and I'll get them to Mark. So we can get those answered as quickly as possible, but yeah.
Yeah, I got a comment, Barb, if I could. So I know you've got a monitoring well on the property already, and I think it's got a data logger on it, is what I've heard from DNR, something that.
Yes.
Logging, thank you. So, I would hope that we could express to the DNR that they would set a level that could be to where they would have to cease withdrawal of water. That's kind of a point, just to set a number so we know what the number is.
Very willing.
Yep, thank you.
And that's cease withdrawal of the livestock or all of them?
Well, they should set I'm not sure if it needs to be the livestock well or the irrigation well or what, that's for the DNR to decide.
So,
Yeah.
respectfully,
We're asking the right question.
this issue of water is largely already solved with the proposal that's been made. All we need is for Mr. Anderson to finalize it. The letter that he wrote yesterday to Adam and myself, and we forwarded it to you, pretty much explains all of that.
Okay.
And I would encourage you to use the math that I did, about 64 million gallons of water, that's 500 houses. If you use the average household use, which is 350 gallons a day, that's 500 homes. And when you think about the win-win here, we are literally going to save more water than we used in prior years.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pardon? Yeah, but he wants one. Can I keep it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
I think so. No, I lost my paper.
Yours?
Oh, yes, that's my mess of stuff.
Senator Klobuchar's aide here,
I believe so.
there with Mandy.
I think so.
Where was
Yeah.
it? Yeah. Where was it? Thank you.
Thank you.
I gotta go.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. So
No,
just fill me in. Drive
yeah, let
safe.
us know and, yeah,
Just keep me posted.
yeah. At this point, I invite all of our other guests to come forward. Mike,
Senator Utke,
Senator Aki.
Mandy,
So that makes
Yeah.
absolutely no sense.
we need one more chair up there, right?
Do we need another
We
chair?
got Jordan
I can
and
grab her from
Jordan.
the first row.
he's here. Yeah, let's grab one more chair.
Do we want to just bring that whole table up, Randy?
I think there'll be room, because we just need one
That's
for
what I
Mike,
was
don't we?
thinking. It'd be nice to have a definite number set. So you have something in concrete.
And it's gotta come from the geology.
Right.
There is coffee over there if you'd like to grab a cup of coffee and a cookie before we start, you sure can, and
Meet again.
How are you?
Hey, good, how are you?
Good. How was the clay tour?
Oh, this is an honor.
Delightful, actually.
Mm-hmm.
It was, they hired 4 full-time potters.
Oh,
Could you imagine that?
I couldn't. Was it a big place?
Oh,
No, not really. It's
Should
kind
we
of like
move that other table back?
garage in
There you
back,
go.
But,
Ah,
You turn it out though.
yeah, they're one of 3
there you go.
companies in
Very
the country
nice.
that make pottery that can be used for actual cooking. Like they make skillets and Dutch ovens and pizza pans and like.
That's gotta take a different kiln process.
It takes a different
Yeah.
heating process,
Finishers.
a different glaze,
Yeah.
a different. Fascinating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really. Cool, very cool.
wait for-
You're a young boy.
Yeah. Well, this is quite an honor for Todd County, for you guys all to join us this morning, and we absolutely appreciate you coming to visit with us. And with that, I'll ask you to introduce yourselves, if you would. Mike, can we start with you?
Well, for those who don't know me, I'm Mike Wiener, Representative Mike Wiener. There we go, there's audio. I'm Representative Mike Wiener, live a few miles south and almost a lifetime resident of Todd County, except for the few years in college and after. And first-time legislator, so it's a pleasure to be here, and I just ask that we keep the yelling to a minimum.
Paul Etke. It's my honor to represent Todd County in the Minnesota Senate, and I happen to live in Park Rapids, so just a little ways north of you.
Thank you.
I'm Mandy Heffron, and I work for Congresswoman Michelle Fischbach in the 7th Congressional District here.
Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Jordan Schreier. I am Senator Tina Smith's Western Minnesota Outreach Director.
Good morning, Commissioners. Appreciate the invitation to be here. My name is Ben Lean. I am with Senator Klobuchar's office, representing basically the 7th Congressional District for the Senator.
Thank you. And what we'll do is we'll have department heads come up and ask specific questions or concerns that we have. So with that, Commissioners, do you have any questions right now?
I'll wait for a little later.
Okay. And Commissioner Denny had to leave. He has a young child in St. Cloud Hospital, so he asked to be released, which he did leave. So that's why he's no longer with us. Who would like to start? Concerns, department heads?
Jackie?
Jackie, you want to start?
That's
You're
the-
standing.
That's the big animal.
That's the one.
I've got a team of individuals here that can help me kind of speak to what we've going on legislatively. I was just sharing that I am I'm the president in 2024 for MAXA, which is the Minnesota Association of Social Service Administrators, where we'll, as an association, we talk about human services issues and meet to kind of go over legislatively what our priorities are. And we have a number of things for all 87 counties in the state. So I have a number of my managers here to kind of talk about what our local issues are on top of what some of our state issues are. Our biggest thing is bed capacity around mental health and services and resources. This has been an ongoing issue that we've been having statewide. We have a gentleman that we are, is at a does not meet criteria situation as we speak, and Kim, I'll have you kind of come up, but we'll just talk real high level about that, where he's costing the county locally $2,100 a day, and we're at over a $300,000 bill. And because he was discharged to be released into the community, and we are struggling to get him placed. So, and a number of recommendations we've come up with, the state is either denied, says, nope, that's not gonna meet his needs, even though we feel that we could do that. So we had a provider buy a home.
Jackie, and how many days has this been going on? Quite a while.
Well, we're over $300,000 as a cost of the county, numbers of days.
Did you say
He went DNMC August 22nd.
Jenna, how many days are we at? I know you track it, the last one you sent out. It was about a week ago.
August
Right.
22nd until
Okay.
February 6th.
So you can count the days at $2,100 a day. So it's a priority really locally for us. So we had a provider that has bought a home and they're staffing it, but now we need to have it licensed with the fire marshal and up to code. But again, lighting the fire at the state level to get this license, and this gentleman will be a 3-to-1, so 3 staff members to 1. And there, the state had said that we are being charged at $2,100 a day, or every county is, to incentivize counties to get them out of the state facility, but there is nowhere for him to go. So even at the state level, when we wanted to push him out through the state. So significant concern locally for us, bed capacity. So we are, that is one of our priorities at MAXA. And I talked to Representative Wiener, Senator Utke. I know we've got some federal representatives at the end of the table, and I'm sorry I stepped out maybe when you were doing introductions, but so significant concern. Kim, anything to add on that? And then this is adult, not even to mention the concerns we have on the adolescent side. Counties are sending kids, there's no beds for adolescents nationwide to be taken care of institutionally, so.
Yes, and that's not just like our gentleman who's under a commitment that needs a community placement. We have our people that are classified as MIND, mentally ill and dangerous. They're taking up beds, not only in hospitals, ERs, in Anoka where our gentleman is, when they should really be down in St. Peter. There's a wait list of months and months for these individuals to even go there to be assessed. So there's just this backlog. So the backlog starts at our ERs. So we will have individuals not only in our county, but other counties that are in the ER for weeks, months, and they're not getting the mental health treatment they actually need to get better, to come back to their community, to their family, friends, jobs. So they're in our ERs who do not have the capacity to handle people with mental health issues. So they're sitting in a room in an ER, no TVs, anything, waiting for a place to go. And so that's really sad to me that we have people in our communities that aren't getting the treatment they
jails.
need. Or jails, that's another,
I mean,
that's another option.
Sheriff Allen isn't here, but I'm sure that is a priority for him, that we have individuals sitting in our jails needing higher levels of care with nowhere to go.
Yep.
As well as our ER departments.
Yep, and that's just not our mentally ill, it's our people with developmental disabilities, all different ages, ranges. People are getting more sick, and now is the most important time to get them the help they need.
That would be interesting to know when you talk about the jails, we know there's a lot of people with mental health in the jails, but in the first 5 months of 2023, and this was just those kept in a normal hospital setting, we had over 76,000 patient days of people that should have been out in a different facility, but were housed in a hospital just because there was nowhere for them to go. And again, that price is similar to what you're experiencing in that the hospital was eating that cost. But just one clarification, you mentioned this particular individual, 3 staff to 1. Is that 24 hours a day?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And not to mention the workforce shortage, but really, like we said, that $2,100 a day was incentivized counties to get them placed where there is nowhere to go. But that money, which we plan to appeal, and I hope we're successful at that, but that comes out of our general fund, but also goes into the general fund at the state. Does not go towards behavioral health fund. So we're really not, I mean, when we pay that bill, it's not helping that behavioral health issue that we have out there. It goes to an endless pit. we feel.
Who are
Funding many, many other things.
Who are you going to appeal that to?
Commissioner, yep,
Commissioner of
DHS. Yep.
If you wouldn't mind, keep me
Absolutely.
updated on that, because I would like to help with that, because it, at some point, we have to prove a point. We talked about this, I'm going into my 8th year down in St. Paul, and we've talked about it every year with the department, and they kind of blow it off. It's time they take responsibility.
And they continue, I mean, we were seeing the CDHHs, the local facilities being closed, which has really created this pipeline issue. And I know it is workforce related, but it's not fixing the problem that we have. So it's really creating more of a pipeline issue than anything. Okay, behavioral health. Next, one of our next biggest things is really around human services, and this is where I'll ask Stephen to come up. Modernization with technology. As we know, our systems here that we work locally on as software is very, very archaic. It is still, many of them are with a blue screen, that DOS system, that when we have new generational workers coming in, they look at this and go, what kind of system is this? But also, it's kind of a double-edged sword, is if they touch it, it breaks, even worse than what it had been prior to. But I'll let Stephen kind of talk about, Stephen is our manager in the eligibility side. Some of the concerns and workforce issues that we're seeing, that, you know, it's just not efficient when we have to do the work here at the county.
Yes, so the probably the biggest concern would be the eligibility system for families with children and adults without children, the MET system. So it's through the MNsure portal. It's a new system, 2014, I believe. A lot of processes don't work or don't interface. So the procedures get exceedingly complex with closing and reentering cases. I did bring an example of one particularly complex procedure would be when there's a second pregnancy. So if there's already pregnancy evidence in the system for a prior pregnancy, and then there's another pregnancy reported, every time that were to happen, that whole case has to be closed and re-entered. And then, which is complicated. So you imagine if there's a household of 4, there's already 4 or 5 children in the home, and then there's a pregnancy reported, and there's already evidence in there. It needs to be manually entered, every person back into the system again.
And that's their solution. Close it and reopen it. So it is.
That's just one of the instances where it's a close and re-enter. The system theoretically would have probably been, great, but with the issues with it, it's caused, the workforce that's required to maintain the cases is much higher than it should be, as far as I'm concerned.
Hey, Jackie. I was fortunate to sit with our HSS team a month or so ago, and when they described this process to me, my first thought was, thank goodness we're not doing heart surgery or brain surgery, because we'd be killing people. The system takes unbelievably talented people like this and makes their lives miserable. I mean, if you took your car in to get brakes fixed and the system didn't work, you take it somewhere else. It creates such a troublesome for these folks. You got to go home to your family, to your friends, and have to just think about these issues that are constantly 8 hours a day wreaking havoc in their lives. Now, come on. It's software. We put people on the moon. We can bring rockets back and put them on the Earth, on a launch pad in the Indian Ocean with 350-mile-an-hour winds. Fix this. They need it fixed, and we're not the only. Everybody's like this. One of however many counties, 99 or whatever, 78, something like that.
87.
87. I knew I had it backwards.
It's a challenge at every level, but there are a lot of them much larger, and we hear it from Hennepin and Ramsey and those counties too, and it's Because as a legislature, we have spent tons of money funding computer systems and upgrades, but they continue to tell us it's 20 or 30 years old and they can't do anything about it. What do they do with the money? But it's inexcusable.
And we're actually, we're scared to almost say anything anymore, because when they touch something, it really, really breaks, and it gets worse, not better.
Yeah.
It may remind you of Minlars.
It sounds like, I mean, if I remember the conversation, I mean, there's times you have to put pencil to paper to get the calculations correct, which I'm sure they're quite qualified to do that, but, what are the potentials for,
And when you have to manual entry and close and reopen and enter birth dates, there's human error in that, and with human, human intervention becomes human error, so.
Plus, when you add also that because it's through the Minster system, clients have the option to go and apply themselves. So the eligibility worker isn't entering the application. They can make all sorts of errors as far as, clerical errors themselves, and then we have to work with that, and then that's another issue. The older system, the Maxis system, is from 1996. So we're scared to death to say anything about it, though, because it's actually works better in a way than the newer system. So, but there's a lot of manual calculations. Some of the programs are automated, some are not, some are half automated. Like healthcare, for instance, for elderly and disabled populations is somewhat automated, but there's a big section of it that's not. So the eligibility workers are always having to keep track, and that changes also at times. What's automated, what's not, it's a drag.
And the other thing which is really interesting, when you bring up the larger counties and so forth, the larger counties maybe have a certain number of people working on each program. We're in a smaller county. Our people have to know all the programs and be able to work on all the programs. And they have to have twice as much knowledge, because the larger counties are working on what they're put in front of them, where ours, they have to know them all.
Yeah.
And be able to work on all of them.
Cool.
And how do we hire, we can't continue to hire people on.
Well, it should be it's because what Mr. Utke said is about, whether you're in Park Rapids, Duluth, Rochester, Minneapolis, Lyle, Minnesota, town of 5 people or whatever, it's not a, it's not, it's pretty, it affects everybody. Small town, big town, so thank you for taking that back to your teams and putting the shovel in the ground. I appreciate it.
Okay?
Thank you.
That was all.
I know, we could go on and on.
She might
but I
come
know we have
back.
a number of people here that. We'll definitely reach out when I'm in at the Capitol in March.
Please do.
but-
Kathy, would you like to come up? Kathy, would you introduce yourself then also?
I will. Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Kathy Langer. I am the director at Todd Wadena Community Corrections. We provide probation and parole, or what is known in Minnesota as supervised release services for individuals in Todd and Wadena counties. I really want to echo what Jackie and her staff and Health and Human Services just said about the lack of resources for individuals. Many of our clients also are in the same boat as the folks that Jackie described in terms of really struggling they're really struggling to find services, and we're really struggling to help them find services. We have adults who are on probation or supervised release for some very serious offenses, and sometimes are living out of their vehicles or hopping from motel to motel because there is no housing available that will take them due to their criminal records. Or the housing is already filled up. And that's in Todd and Wadena counties. We're not talking the big metro areas where you see it's flashed on the news. So housing is definitely a concern. It's also a concern for our juvenile clients as well. We have individuals who are, kids who are in detention, and the system does not have enough resources for them to get out, to get into housing or foster care or group home settings. And that's not doing anybody any good, especially if the system does not provide for the kids. That's a battle that we're fighting in many different areas of that child's life. Well, having said that, I also want to thank the state legislature for dedicating funding for community corrections and probation last year. That has allowed every single county to be able to either maintain their services or maybe even add a position to help work with the clients who are on probation. And so thank you for that. Additionally, I wanted to thank the state legislature for passing legislation last year that allowed us to receive an increase in grant funding for the youth intervention program. We just found out last week that we pretty much tripled the amount of grant funding that we've received over the last several years to provide for prevention and intervention of the youth that we work with. We've worked with youth intervention, I think it's been since 1975, and between our two counties, we've served over 4,000 kids. And the whole goal with that program is to try to help those kids stay out of the court system and prevent them from having a court file attached to their name and a record following them for the rest of their life. And so we've had some pretty good successes there. So I really just wanted to thank you very much for that, and happy to answer any questions.
The money and the grants you just talked about for the youth intervention, is that funding for programs or such for them to be involved in or get engaged in? What kind of stuff do you do with that?
Thank you for asking. It depends on the individual program. In Todd and Wadena counties, we have a community concern for youth program where we have a youth worker in each county that works individually with youth who are experiencing problems in school or at home, or potentially criminal problems, school attendance. And so what that funding allows is for our youth workers to continue to work with those children. In addition, we do provide programming for the children who may be facing specific issues such as theft, smoking cessation. We have programs available for kids experiencing problems with substance use. And we also have the kids who are working toward their goals. They are able to participate in activities that are pro-social activities. Many of the kids that we work with haven't had the opportunity, for instance, to go on a swimming activity or canoeing, kayaking, bicycling, horseback riding, things like that. So it's a reward for the kids to be able to experience a pro-social behavior and also gain some pro-social skills. So long answer to your question, it's for programming, activities for the kids to be able to participate in, and also for staff.
I have a question, not just to you, but we've heard this on different levels, education and so forth, when it comes to grants that you mentioned. And do we have resources at the county level for different areas where when grants become available, we have the opportunity? What education is telling me is a lot of times those grants have a timeline on them, and we don't have the resources or the people who can put the work in to get the grants, to apply for the grants by time the deadline shows up. So then we're at a serious disadvantage where that money ends up going to the Metro because we don't have the grant writers to pull some of that money out here.
Definitely, I would agree with that. And for Todd Wadena Corrections, we don't have grant writers. It's all of us internally carving out time to apply for these grants. And we have run into situations where we have not had the service power, the ability to apply for a grant and have missed opportunities because of that.
I would complement that as well, Kathy. We also talked about sustainability. So when these grants come through, they're a 2 or 3 year grant, and then what? We chase the money for another 2 or 3 years, and then that ends, and we chase the money for another 2 or 3 years. So we talk about sustainability. Don't just make it a grant. Let's talk about sustainability and moving forward. We have started seeing that in the public health end, more sustainability, and that's been very grateful because, you know, that ounce of prevention that you put in reaps the rewards in the end. And trying to think about that upstream approach, but thank you, yes. Those 2 year grants are difficult, and at the local level, we all pull our resources together to apply for a grant, and then we try to figure out how do we staff it. But yeah, and then sustainability thereafter.
And even at the federal level, 4 years ago, we received Community Corrections a grant from the Office of Justice Programs, a burn justice grant to do pretrial supervision. We got that for 2 years, and we built a program. We had not had a program before that, built it, received an extension on that grant, but there was no money available locally to be able to continue that, and we lost that. We lost that grant. And we're temporarily out of those services now.
Thank you. Was that an issue with matching funds, local matching funds for the grants?
No, it was not an issue with local matching funds. It was, what was explained to me was that the purpose of the grant is to get something started. It's not to sustain a program. And we didn't have the ability to sustain it. You're welcome.
Well, you know, and this grant thing, if I may, I've had some discussions with the commissioners and with staff. We've got some staff here that is exceptional at writing grants. It's one of the things where, you know, what are all the grants, A? So we got to educate ourselves on what all the grants are. And then B, you know, being focused on maybe what's most important, prioritize it. You know, the approach we've talked about a little bit, at least most recently, just I think yesterday, was it? Yesterday, Catherine and I talked about how to become more focused and how to not just throw everything at the wall and hope something sticks. So we got to prioritize at our level for our constituents what is the most effective. But having a full-time grant writer would be amazing. Like I said, we have resources that are doing an amazing job already, but I know we have to look at that very hard with the available pool of funds that are out there and what fits Todd County and our constituents. So any assistance that's, you know, is there a grant for a grant writer?
Grant for a grant writer?
Anyway, you know, we're interested in being better at that, or, you know, increasing what we do at that level. I shouldn't say better, increasing more volume of what we do there, so.
Well, I think on the greater Minnesota level out here too, it was mentioned before about the computer systems, where the people out here can work with different systems or have to get trained on different things. You wear many hats because you can't specialize like they do in the cities. So an economic developer for the county, I believe, is retiring or just retired.
Yeah.
You know, and is that a position where a person could fill 2 roles? You know, economic development and then work as the grant writer to bring these things together? Because the two tie together a lot. Is that a feasible option? Is that something that's doable? You know,
That was actually part of the discussion yesterday, you know, economic development versus Jackie's team's needs or law enforcement's team's needs or, you know, planning and zoning, whatever department it is. You know, I think we've got, I know a few people I can see in the crowd right now that have done a good job with either our aging population or, current stuff like Catherine's been working on. So whether it's a dual role, and I mean, maybe there's even opportunity within intergovernment stuff to help, whether it be Staples or Long Prairie or whoever the case may be to better us. So man, we should roll our sleeves up and work on that, buddy.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
As I got the microphone, I'm going to have Catherine come up here real quick. We're going to talk about our diversity in our community, which is we have a very diverse population in our county, which requires multiple languages, which is not reimbursable, which is very time consuming. So we have a large WIC population. Our growth has been amazing.
Yeah, Catherine McAdance. I work in our public health areas, and thank you, Commissioner Byers. We've talked a lot about grants and things like that, but I think one of the challenges we have in Todd County is resources, right? But it is capacity. So we have a new immigrant population, as you are well aware of. So City of Long Prairie is about 40% now identify as Hispanic or Latino, right? That has a lot to do with our workforce here. As a whole, Todd County is 8% Hispanic Latino, which is greater than the state of Minnesota. We also have many pockets of different populations, such as our Amish and Mennonite population as well. So those high-risk populations that we have that are here need a lot more resources and services. Not so much our Amish and Mennonite, they take care of themselves. But when you look at something like public health and COVID-19 and the impact that can have on a rural community, that doesn't have nonprofits, that doesn't have other resources and service providers like we've talked about, it falls on local government. And I think that our commissioners see that all the time, that whose responsibility is it? And so even at public health and HHS and our other departments, it becomes very challenging, what is our role? And so I think as local government in a small rural county that has a lot of diversity, that can be even more challenging. And so we talk about things like transportation and housing, and whose role is that to fill? Is it the state role? Is it local government, federal? And these are things we continue to struggle with because capacity. We don't have the staff. We don't have the resources. We don't have the advocacy sometimes. We work a lot with Faith and Justice out of St. Cloud to help our new immigrant population because locally, we don't have any resources around if someone comes here and wants to become legalized, what is available? They have to go to Minneapolis, to get services. That's, and then there's no transportation. So I think really looking at, as there's pockets across the state where this is occurring. How do we make sure that those populations that are diverse, but in a rural area where we see new immigrants coming in November and December without coats, without any household supplies, and we see a lot of our young Latino immigrants getting pregnant. We have so about 20% of our birth data right now is those young Latinas. And so that's growing in our population, which is wonderful, but resources, how do we make sure that there's resources so that they can be the best parents they want to be? So it's an ongoing challenge, and to be honest, you can write all the grants in the world for it, but should that be local government's, concern? And I think that's what we struggle with is really how do we make sure there's services and advocacy for those groups that's outside of, these county walls.
Yeah, it's hard to run a program like that on grants. You need something that's continual.
And you need
You can count on
advocacy
it.
efforts outside. There's very passionate people out there that run these nonprofits and have a strong mission that I think would be really useful. Just as an example, United Way. We don't really have a United Way that serves Todd County. There's a St. Cloud, there's Pope Douglas Stevens, and then we're kind of in this, black hole. And so Sourcewell and Initiative Foundation talk about it. We're basically a desert for nonprofits. And so I think it's just important because yes, a few passionate people can do a lot of good in a community. And I think that can be challenging in a county system where, again, our job is to be accountable for county tax dollars. And that can be challenging with these new communities coming in. And as you know, there's a lot of controversy with that. So no solutions, just comments. I apologize. I wish I had the answers and could ask you specifically for that. But, it's just been an ongoing challenge, and I think it is capacity and services. And so it's something we're going to have to address at the county one way or another. And it's something you should be aware of, that it's not just a metro, concern. It's much harder in a rural area to address those issues.
When that little light bulb goes off and you come up with this great plan, send it to us. and
I'll
we'll help you out.
I'll write a grant first, and then I'll.
2-year grant,
Yep,
and then it'll
two-year
go away.
grant, and we'll work on it. But we have, I should say, we do have Promising Practices is a new family home visiting grant. And this is actually a really good example of where the states offer more flexibility. So family home visiting, as you're well, as our nurses go out and help those new moms, right? Because as we all know, if you're not bonding and nurturing in those first 2 years of life, we can see lots of troubles down the road. So Promising Practices is a new grant that allows us to be flexible with the way we do a family home visiting. It doesn't have to be a rigid evidence-based model. It allows us to help these new moms with immigration, transportation, housing, things like that, getting them internet service, which they of course need in order to apply for jobs, things like that. So there has been some flexibility at MDH, and I appreciate that, because I think this idea of evidence-based, well, evidence is only based on the dominant population that you've been working with for so long, right? There's no research around how to work with new Latina moms in central Minnesota. So let's be honest that we need that flexibility to build up that base of what works. And what works in Todd County doesn't work in other places. So I think that flexibility has been really positive.
I can tell exactly what you have going on down here, because I imagine you might be doing the same thing. We, down in St. Paul, sign baby letters and send those out congratulating them on their new babies. And when they have a Long Prairie or a Browerville address, I can tell what kind of population you have that's young, your young population, and who's having the children, and you see it and it just pops out. And so I know what you're dealing with, and it takes some adjusting to get caught up with that.
Okay, thank you. This probably won't be the last time you see me.
Anyone else in the audience? If not, I'd like to talk a little bit about broadband, and we're still working with that and so forth. I don't know, would you like to come up and address a little bit?
Ken?
Ken? Yeah, I mean, you've been, okay. Okay, I mean, we're still having areas within Todd County that are not been covered yet. Today we gave approval for a CTC grant, giving them a letter and whatnot to help them come towards Long Prairie again, but we're still having issues with broadband in Todd County. So we appreciate the funding that we're getting both from federal and state, but it's one of those problems we're still dealing with. Commissioners?
So on that,
Yeah.
Commissioner Becker, I've been talking to Delvin. He's been keeping me up to date. They had the last meeting, the broadband meeting, and I wasn't able to be there, but I've stayed
Okay.
in touch with him about what's going on there. There is federal money coming, but I think that's almost 2 years out, year and a half, 2 years from now. So that's a big gap. But there was money in the ag bill, I think, last year, or part of that agriculture that was supposed to help with some of that, but I don't know how much money. And him and I were talking about that a little bit too, so just to let you know, I've been in discussions with that at least, or at least know what's going on, or to a certain extent, I should
Okay.
say.
And we're kind of in this phase, our past coordinator's last day was Friday, our new coordinator won't start till March, so we're kind of in that phase in between right now. So, yeah, we'll try to keep everybody updated on it and keep moving it forward. Commissioner Newman?
Yeah, first off, I want to thank
Yeah.
all 5 of you. It's an honor just to sit here and have you all here at one time, state and federal, Greatly appreciate you guys taking your time out of your day today and joining us, so thank you for that. Couple things Todd County's dealing with is broadband, and that affects both state and federal. We have some gaps. We need to try to fill those gaps in. We have multiple agencies that deliver broadband, and once in a while they get into a little fight about whose territory you can come into and whose you can't. So that's some of what we're dealing with right now. I think we have 7 of them. So that's something we need to address. The other thing is and this is a touchy subject, and I'll probably get myself in trouble on this one, but the fact that Health and Human Services in the state of Minnesota is probably one of the fastest growing departments in the state. Last year it was the second biggest expenditure, only surpassed by elementary education. Okay. In dollar terms, the Minnesota Management and Budget recently estimated that HHS will grow by nearly $6 billion, or 40% in the 24-25 biennium compared to what it was in 22-23. Okay, so I'm thinking about that $18 billion surplus we had. But anyways, spending will increase further by nearly another $8 billion or 50% in the 26-27 biennium compared to the 22-23 biennium. In another way, 4 years of covering 24 to 27 to fiscal years, $42 in every 100 of new spending in the budget will be allocated to HHS. That's a lot of money. Okay. Making it the primary driver of the growth in the Minnesota state budget. That's something we really got to look at, you guys. We can't keep growing this animal and leaving other services on the side.
You know, just to put those numbers in perspective is, we always hear about the big numbers. You guys that represent the federal side of things, they talk trillions. We come to the state and talk billions, but you're talking HHS and Human Services. And last year, this last session, as we started the 2023 session, we were catching the tail end of that biennium, and we'll get these updated numbers now here in a few weeks to see where we're at currently. But last year, when you take that HHS budget and you bring it down to a daily distribution, so that's including the state general fund monies, the money that comes from the federal government, fees, licenses, everything flows in and it would flow back out. It was over 70, it was about $70.5 million a day. So that's the size of the animal you're talking about, and it's growing from last year going forward. So that number is going to be up, I'm sure, $2 to $3 million a day at least when we get those numbers here, you know, later in this month. So it's a huge thing that needs to be get our arms wrapped around somehow.
Yeah, because we're starting to see it here in Todd County.
It flows to you guys.
It's starting to come down,
Yep.
down into the county government, and it's like, okay, we're not the richest county in the state, and how do you sustain, you know, the lawmakers extended Minnesota Care eligibility to undocumented immigrants, okay? That affects all of us, and somebody's got to pay for it. And I don't know the answer.
The worst part of that is part of what you just mentioned, and they're looking at expansions of whether it's Minnesota Care or these government pay programs for healthcare. The end result is going to be when we live in our small towns and we go to that hospital or doctor or clinic to get services, and they're closed because they can't afford to operate on those negative, you know, reimbursement rates below cost. And that's going to be a huge, huge problem. And that's something that we're looking at across rural all of Minnesota, because the big guys in the cities are losing money too. There was one down there losing $1 million a day here recently. But 66% of our hospitals in Minnesota ran in the red last year. That's a scary thought, because when we want health care, we hopefully can walk up to that door and walk in and get the services we are looking for.
Right, and that's both federal and state. I mean, that's, yeah.
Yeah, because we're partners in this across the board. You know, you've got your Medicare, Medicaid, a lot of that's coming from the federal side with input from the state and particularly the Medicaid. So it's a joint effort that we've got to work on.
Well, you mentioned the surplus, $19 billion surplus. And you talked about the numbers. And now statistically, what they're looking at is a budget deficit by what, 2025? So there right now is projected to 2.4 billion, I think, for 24, 25, but by next year, the state's looking at a deficit. So it was mentioned that we have to be fiscally responsible. Well, should have started that with the $19 billion surplus to be fiscally responsible. It's a little late when you spent it all and then say we're gonna be in the hole.
Maybe the process should be, we hang on to that for 1 year in case all these maintenance issues come up. A lot of people run their businesses that way. I'm gonna hang on to it because I might need a new lawnmower, my business, whatever. It'd be interesting to see, because I mean, the amount of diesel that the state is not saving this year on snow removal, all the salting, I bet you they're gonna be a lot more healthy than what they're saying. By the way, I was gonna ask, is there any whiff of another gas tax being spoken down in Minneapolis or at the legislature?
Well, the gas tax now is.
Or increased, I'm sorry.
Is attached to inflation, so it will continue to go up as inflation, you know, whatever that inflation number is, gas tax will go up accordingly. And then you have the clean transportation, whatever they could calling that, which comes out, I believe it's tomorrow. There's a meeting down here in west central Minnesota. And that has to do with clean fuels. And you hear all kinds of different reports, but the one group I met with last week said if that was to be put into play, it could raise the cost of gas anywhere from 40 to 60 cents a gallon.
Those are the numbers
I
I'm
haven't
hearing
seen the
also.
data yet, and I've asked to get a copy of it tomorrow once it's released publicly, and then we'll see what's all in it. But no matter what, that sounds like gas and diesel would go up. And our rural ag areas, what's most important to us? Gasoline and diesel fuel.
I mean, if you lived in
Everything we
Barnesville, you
do.
might as well run over to Fargo, get your gas then. You know, if you lived in western or eastern Minnesota, go over to Wisconsin and get your gas. Drive down to Iowa. I mean, the revenue laws is good. That ain't smart, man.
So since we're talking about EVs, I don't believe Todd County has a charging station, and correct me if I'm wrong, to charge your car if you were coming through the county. Is there one?
No,
No, you got hitching posts though.
Motley's got one.
Alfalfa
I don't-
burners.
Lauren?
Yeah, there is one.
What library? Long Prairie?
Wasn't aware of that.
Funded one probably 8 years ago that was installed there.
Okay,
And the other one, which is outside of Todd County, would be Motley, there's one. But I don't know if any other ones.
I've only got one other question, if I may. Is there any discussion about, you know, I would imagine in Mr. Etke's area and here, and I know in northern Wisconsin, they're concerned about the wolf population and the ability to delist the gray wolf or timber wolf, one of the wolves, from the endangered species list. I go to Lions meetings, we have a lot of hunters, they're always asking me, you know, what's being done. So any insight, please?
The wolf population is a huge issue as you go north. And, you know, I'm sure you guys are hearing tons of this talk too, because it does need to be addressed. There's not an animal that I know of that we don't have to manage, from our domestic cats and dogs to our livestock. And then you look at our wild animals, they all need something, whether you let some of it be natural, but in this case, to protect an animal that's a predator at, you know, in our rural areas, it's at the top of the food chain. So it's not only raising cane with our deer population, which has brought most of the attention, but our farmers and ranchers, it's huge. I used to work full-time for a few years in the insurance industry, still an agent, but don't get a chance to do it anymore. But when I would deal with some of the ranchers I insured, when you got in their pickup to go out and look at the buildings, I had to slide the rifle over to get in the passenger seat. And it's unfortunate, but they have to do that to protect their livelihood, which is their animals. The wolves are a big problem. And we will continue to talk about it, and I'm sure we're gonna hear from our federal friends too that it's being talked about out there.
Yeah, I will just echo that. We are hearing a lot about it as well. Congresswoman Fishbach just signed on to a letter with Congressman Stauber talking about just not putting any more funding into keeping the gray wolf on that list. Would definitely recognize the issue there. And like I said, are hearing personal stories of, like you mentioned, Senator, the livestock that's being endangered, and hearing stories of them coming into yards where potentially there could be young children and such as well. And there is also evidence to back that the wolf population has come back as well. But yes, if there's more concerns, please feel free to reach out too.
Thank you.
So along with that, there's a group that's been going around having meetings and been very successful in bringing this to light. So I was at 4 of those, one up in Longville, Wadena, St. Cloud, and Little Falls. St. Cloud was the smallest one, I think, at about 150 people. Now, you wouldn't necessarily think that would be an issue in St. Cloud so much, but people who have land in the northern part of the state to go hunting and are seeing no deer at all. Well, that affects so many things up there. Money that comes out of St. Cloud in the metro. When you've got a cabin up north and go hunting and there's no deer, there's no point in going up there. So it has a huge impact on what's going on here. Some of the questions have been then, what do we do or what can we do? And I asked some of the questions, I wanted to know numbers, right? Let's make this decision based on facts and information. And I said, what are the deer counts? We don't do deer counts anymore. We used to have an idea of what the deer were. The DNR would go count herds. They don't do that anymore, it's modeling. So even the number of wolves that we have is based on modeling. It's not necessarily counts. So I was starting to do more research because I was trying to figure out, has the number of deer gone down, and do we have at least anecdotal evidence to prove that? So I looked up number of deer fatalities. And that's actually gone down in the last 10 years. But what did surprise me is the highest number of deer fatalities is actually 5 counties around the metro. That one surprised me. So when we're not basing these decisions on facts, we're basing them on emotions or political, ideas, that's dangerous. I don't believe that's the best way to do things. And a lot of people in the metro are pushing not to have deer hunts for whatever their reasons are. But if we have the highest number of deer fatalities in the metro, my suggestion was we live trap as many wolves as possible in northern Minnesota and supply the metro to bring that number of, deer fatalities down. We could save lives by doing this. It's an idea. I like to find solutions.
Be people willing to do it.
Yeah. But really, it is a huge issue right now, and the farmers up north are seeing it, landowners are seeing it, and we're on this edge. Yeah. Wadena north is where you're really seeing those wolf numbers, but it's coming here.
You go to Ripley and it's nothing like it used to be, so.
I saw a video down by our place somebody sent us, and I couldn't tell. It was really grainy from a distance, and they said, well, there's 6 wolves out in this field. This is 3-4 miles as a crow flies from my place. And I can't really tell, and then I thought, could be coyotes. No, you don't see 6, 7 coyotes in a field. They don't do that. So that's wolves. The other thing is, and the question that's come up is, so that's a federal issue, but the state has gone against federal law before. Marijuana bill is a prime example. Still illegally to possess and use marijuana in the state or on the federal level, yet the state says you can do it. So the state can potentially, they've done it before. You set the precedence, let's just follow that example and institute a wolf hunt in the state. Trying to find solutions to problems.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
So Ben, I got a question. When Senator Klobuchar first ran, she supported a legalized wolf hunt in Minnesota, which my family did participate in because we have land up in St. Louis County. How is she feeling on it right now? Would she support it?
I will have to get back to you on that in all honesty. You know, we have been hearing about the issue from constituents. We were just up in Bagley touring Team Industries earlier, I guess it was last month, and we are hearing about it. So we've been taking notes on it. You know, I'm taking notes today and everything on what folks are saying, but I will have to get back to you on her official position. I have an idea, but I want to convey to you the most accurate positions she has. Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any concerns you want to share with us that we should be watching for or so forth coming up?
Well, we mentioned the budgets earlier.
Yeah.
You know, unfunded mandates from the state coming to counties, education, you know, municipalities, all those things. I really have a hard time. We have these discussions down at the Capitol about how this affects greater Minnesota, and unfortunately, it seems to fall on deaf ears. It was mentioned earlier, when we have more local autonomy, we can probably spend that money much more efficiently. Unfortunately, the one-size-fits-all of government doesn't allow that to happen sometimes, most often. But those are the frustrations, those budgets, the money that gets spent at the state level that trickles down and ends up becoming a reason to increase property taxes, which really hurts our citizens out here. We've said this before, when our aging population, you know, 30% of our population is aging. How do we keep mom or dad on the old farmhouse when they can't afford the taxes anymore? I would compliment the commissioners for last year when their budget increased by what, 0.03% or 0.3%? When the average across the state was, you know, 5 to 6, I would say that the county did an excellent job of maintaining that budget and finding ways to make it work. I wish we could at the state level do the same thing.
And like you mentioned, property taxes, huge concerns as commissioners, yeah. Okay.
Madam Chair, if I may?
Yeah.
That was one of my questions, but you answered it. We appreciate the large amount of CPA we got last year. That was great for helping with our budget. But as we know, we planned ahead to be smart fiscally, knowing that the short end of the stick is going to come, and it sounds like that's what we're going to see. I don't know how we can continue to budget as efficiently as we have been. We established a finance committee, and we do an excellent job with the department heads, and I oversee that committee. But by giving the large program aid, and now it'll be shifting down and getting less and less and less, you're exactly right, that's gonna go right back to the taxpayer, because we've kept our levy low, and if levy limitations come back into play, it could be very detrimental to our communities in our county. I don't know if there's any plug for you guys to make that for us down there, but there's other things that get tough for us too in my division, like the Tyler Hennepin case. Now, I handle the tax forfeit property. I don't have a condo in Minneapolis that's gonna go for sale that the lady gets her money back. I have a garbage house that I've now spent $8,000 to clean the garbage out. we've had to pay a lawnmower to mow the grass all summer, and then I go sell that for $2,000, but I'm supposed to give the revenue back to some deadbeat that didn't pay their taxes, and I can't find them. So this has made such a turmoil in my office as far as how do we continue to do tax forfeiture following the state laws that we were taught to do because of this court case. I don't know what to do. I don't have an answer. So right now, I'm the director of Region 5 for Mako, and most of the counties are going, we're not gonna have a sale. We're just not gonna do a forfeiture sale because where are we gonna be held liable? And I know you probably don't have the answer for that either, but.
What beyond accounting on that? Because I think you've got all the expenses that go into cleaning up the property, getting it ready for sale, and then it sells for X amount of dollars.
Exactly.
And then you got to figure out what was fair market for that house originally, because, you know, we understand what took place in the cities because there was such a huge difference, but how's that really hitting us in our small areas?
In our small areas, it's gonna hit us hard. We're gonna end up offsetting that cost because if they look at the fair market value of the house, maybe when it forfeited, I don't know the formula right off the top of my head how they're handling it right now because we've just kind of all put a standstill to any tax forfeiture. But in our case, like I'm saying, I might have a house that's a garbage house, so right now maybe the assessor only has it valued at $5,000. But for me to clean it out and do sentence to service cleans it out for me, I use every type of mechanism free that I can use to clean it out. Our transfer station is very good too at minimally charging me for all the garbage we bring there. I might have a $8,000 bill. I actually had one up in the Staples area, over $8,000 just to clean that house out for the garbage and junk. And then now I have a forfeiture sale. I might get a neighbor that says, well, I'll buy the lot for $1,000 because I'll tear the house down. I'm already in the hole, how many thousand, 7,000 from the cleanup. But now this Tyler Hennepin case tells me I've got to go find the person that chose not to pay taxes for 3 years, and I've got to give them 90% of the proceeds, or whatever the ratio is. I don't know it off the top of my head. So I'm saying that that is affecting us in small counties hugely.
So that case came back as a percentage rather than
I'd have to read
determined
the court
value.
case again. It's been some time
Okay.
since I read it, but yes, if you have time to look into that one.
Madam
There's a
Chair,
dollar amount that we
Denise?
have to.
Actually, the Tyler case held that anything above the tax burden on the house goes back to the owner of record. So if the delinquent taxes were, say, $10,000 and at auction it sells for $30,000, the county doesn't get to keep that $20,000 extra. We have to go fight, and it doesn't matter what we've got into it.
Right.
And at the appropriate time, I'd like to piggyback on that because there's an issue in my office that is right on point.
So what would need to be added is the fact that all the costs that you would be put into it, starting with your garbage house as you talk about it, the cleanup and everything to get it up to where you could actually get it back on the market. Because in the end, you want it back on the tax rolls.
Exactly, we want it back.
But
We have lots of
you
costs.
need to be able to
maintenance,
recoup your
yep.
costs out of it rather than donate your
Exactly.
costs. Okay, I got you.
And just to put a finer point on it, what if that property also has a medical assistance lien on it? Do we get to recover that medical assistance lien, or do we have to ignore that and give the money back to the owner of record who owes the state potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars in nursing home costs? That needs to be clarified, because over the last year, that's something that our office started doing. We started probating properties to recover the medical assistance liens that were out there, because there was no incentive for folks who had properties that were worth 10 grand, but grandma's nursing home lien was $300,000. There's no incentive to sell it or fix it up. And so we were selling those to try to recover that. And now that's all up in the air because of that Tyler versus Hennepin County decision.
Yeah. Thanks, John.
Okay. Thank you.
So one thing, Denise, you did bring up, county program aid. We really appreciated that. But then you guys come back and went with the sick and safe time on us. And then the family leave, and then the marijuana. And the marijuana, they didn't really give us any guidelines, so you're just kind of, you know, a lot of the stuff that was passed down to us had no how am I gonna say that? Put it in place. It was just a crapshoot. So a lot of us on the sick and safe time, I mean, every committee I'm on, we were talking about sick and safe. And making sure that got implemented and make sure we got it done right. The family leave, which is going into effect, what, 2025? That's another one where somebody could take leave up to, what, 32 weeks. How do you employ people not knowing that they could be gone half the year? It just throws wrenches into county functions.
Well, for clarification, when you say you guys.
Oh, sorry.
You know, can we point that in a more focused direction, I guess?
And part of it was we
Sorry,
sat
Representative.
here, I think, in either the end of May or early June, and talking about the county program aid and said, proceed cautiously because there's a lot of bad things coming. Well, you're talking about the things we were talking about. Those expenses are coming and they aren't all here yet. So it's not gonna get better.
Yep. So please look, yeah.
Okay. I guess I'll go down the line if you guys would have anything to add or would like to.
Sure, I will just add a plug for our newsletter and for all of these, the members here and the other representatives of the senators. Everybody sends out a newsletter, and it's just a great way to stay informed about what's going on, whether it's at the federal level or the state, and it's a good, just a connecting point, and then you maybe have questions from there, and it's a good place to go. And I will also just say, I will leave any cards. Feel free to reach out. I think all of these gentlemen beside me feel the same way, that we are here to represent all of you guys and to help you guys. So if there's anything that comes up in between meetings like this, feel free to reach out.
Thank you for coming. I go down.
Hi there. Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks for having me. Also, I was in Eagle Bend and Long Prairie last week. I toured the Hilltop Square kitchen last week and saw all the food. Verna, if she's still here, she showed me around. Is she still? Yep, right back there. Anyway, it was a great tour. And today during your meeting, I saw that you approved the ARPA funding to be used for partial funding of one of the new ovens. And I love seeing the funding that is sent down used for good, solid programs like that one. I can assure you I went back and told the senator about what was all happening at the kitchen and the amazing work you're doing. So it's really amazing to see these rural communities taking care of each other and taking care of the people around them and just making sure that they can have the best life possible. So thanks for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you all extending the invitation. For us, it's always good. This is the second in as many weeks of these county legislative roundtables I've been to, so it's really nice to hear from the state folks, really nice to hear from our congressional counterparts, just what's happening, what your questions on, what your points are, what your issues are, more importantly. And yeah, I guess I would just echo what my counterparts have said. Any questions, concerns, comments at any time, reach out. It's always good to hear from folks and find out what we can do for you all. I always like to tell people, we can't always do things, we can't always help unless we know what the issues are and what you really need from the federal government. So really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one last comment, just to let you know that our solid waste building, hopefully, fingers crossed, will be started yet this spring, summer. So we're definitely moving forward with that. So, and thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it. Very honored to have you guys all here. Thank you. And there's still coffee and cookies, so everybody help themselves, please.
Oh, yeah. Was that long enough board meeting? Are you sure that wasn't the longest one?